Hey guys, welcome back to the Boneyard podcast. This week's guests, we have Legendary. The name's a little wrong. That should be HVL Legendary. And we're working on some things. And then Graff, you're not a part of 11 ERM. I forgot the new regiment's name.
It's DNA, but I
DNA.
just tested them. It's the first war I'm in them. It's less of the classical regiment, right? It's a vet regiment, so the entire structure of it is a bit loose. Everyone knows what they're doing. It's a bit different to the normal regiment structure.
Right on.
But yeah, I am.
Well,
since this one not anymore part of 11E. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I'll let these guys introduce themselves a little more, tell them a little bit more about themselves and what they do. We can go ahead and start with you, Graff, since you're kind of already letting us know about DNA.
I think there's not that much to say about 11E, but about myself, I've been playing since War 96, so in the grand scheme of things, relatively new. Been Warden Loyalist since basically War 101, and War 100 was my last time that I played Collie outside of a Warden regiment, and have been Collie only 2 times since War 100, and both of those cases was with a Warden regiment that went Collie. So opinions might be a bit biased, but I always try to keep the brain rot in check.
It's always important.
But yeah, and gameplay-wise, I mean, I think I play the majority of gameplay loops the game has to offer. I'm not that much into Navy, I have to say. For me personally, it's just too time-consuming. It's too much of a commitment. I mean, you need to have 4 hours booked minimum, potentially more. A lot of guys that know what they are doing. It's just not my jam. But yeah.
Right on. All right, Legendary. Let's move on to you, brother.
Cool. Yeah. Now HVL Legendary, formerly WL Legendary. Started off with a new regiment with former WL guys. I am a mostly predominantly colonial player, but I have absolute factionalism out of my head. I like both factions. They both have their own unique cultures. They have their own asymmetric gameplay, and I like playing on both sides, honestly. But for the most part, HVL is a committed colonial regiment. I really like playing with the guys in HVL, or else I wouldn't be part of it. So, yeah, I am a professional colonial, but I like to dip my feet into both sides on a waterfall basis.
Oh. Right on, man. Well, I'll introduce myself. I normally don't, but I think I need to start with this episode. I'm Big Bear Berg, commander of the Bone Regiment, colonial loyalists, but I really like to delve deep into balance of gameplay for both factions. I try to stay as unbiased as I can. Me being a loyalist, that is hard for me, but I do understand not everything is peaches and cream on the Warden side. Debates get heated on here. I've had many conversations with Legendary about balance, and this is the second time. Both of these guys are second-time guests, and I really enjoy both of them because they play on both sides of the ball. And you know, I started this podcast to try to reach out to the development team and get ideas from the community out to them. I want to be the olive branch from the community to the devs, and that's why this podcast was started. And so I could just be a salty vet when I want. Yeah. I will say I got some news today, IRL, and I would like to dedicate a minute of silence for one of my best friends, Matthew, and his brother Gabriel. They had a tragedy, and I'm just going to give a full minute of silence for these guys. They were like brothers to me, and they had a tragedy happen, and so I'm going to start that minute now. I didn't keep an exact time. Just a moment of silence for my friends. This is just something near and dear to me. And if you guys want to reach out, I will try to add the GoFundMe if Gabriel will allow me for what had happened. I would like to add the GoFundMe for Gabe. And I don't want to dive into too much deeper because it's not my issue. I want to kind of let them do as they please, but I'd like to spread awareness for what happened. Now moving on to lighter topics and a little bit less heartfelt. I would like to get on with the Boneyard podcast, and that being the first thing, I would like to ask these guys, and something we kind of talked about, and something I want to change in this podcast is, we know there are issues in this game. That's inevitable in any game. There's always issues. But instead of usually complaining about what's in the game, I want to start looking at things we can fix and or add to the game to make the game more fun. And so something I gave both of these guys, and kind of what I ask a lot of people as the first question is, what is something you want added into the game right now to help? And I'll let the floor open up from there.
All right. I think the only right answer for the Wardens right now is that we need the Ascension. It's a bit of a joke on the Warden side at least.
Oh my god.
But the Ascension would fix but I'm not sure if we need that much right now, like equipment-wise. I really have to say, at least from my personal experiences, the past wars is that the balance most likely, in the grander scheme of things, is the best it's ever been since I at least started playing. At least from an equipment perspective. I'm not talking about all of the things that are very hard to influence for the devs, right? Like population imbalances and just the way that both sides engage with the war, right? Like the best example was the last update war, where just one side obviously was on a break war, while the other side wasn't. And I mean, you can't do anything about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we really need is to somehow fix the stuttering and the lag on the servers. At least me personally, it sometimes drove me crazy when you are on the front and it's like lagging and stuttering the entire time, and it really takes the fun out of the game for me. But I'm not sure how easy it is to fix that, I have to admit as well. Might be easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
I agree. So is stability. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the majority of people sometimes says, yeah, just buy more servers or more server capacity. I believe that's not the thing that would solve it, because I'm quite sure that they would have done that already, if it would be that easy to fix. Yeah. Curious what they will do until Airborne hits, because whatever their plan is, I hope they have a plan before they add airplanes on top of the current situation.
One thing to capitalize on that, though, and to say is, if we go ahead and look at the roadmap for 2025 and looking at that and the Airborne update and where it sits, there's two updates that sit before Airborne. And one of those, which is this second to last update, or the last update before Airborne, it's meant to be a back of house / engine / they don't really give us a great example or detail about it, but I assume a lot of it's going to be back of house work. When looking at Anvil Empires, that was and is the perfect test bed. They don't have to implement it into their live servers. They can do play tests. They can mess around with a lot of stuff on Anvil, and then they might try to implement that into Foxhole. That's what a lot of people are guessing and stipulating into. I don't really know or have an answer to this, but I would say that is a possibility that Anvil's engine is what they're cooking up for Foxhole to eventually become, which is seamless map and seamless gameplay. Now, obviously, there's a lot more things not even a lot more things. Let me be more specific. There's a lot more implementations in the Foxhole, such as trailer or hitching. I know that's in Foxhole with the buggies, or not Foxhole, Anvil with like the trailers, with the donkeys or horses or whatever. They're already trying to add a lot of the stuff that they have in Foxhole over there already. They already have boats on Anvil. They already have the trailer hitches, which those are things that took us a long time to get in Foxhole. Not so much boats, but more or less what I'm saying is like the hitches, the higher player pop per hexes. So, there could be a correlation in what they're trying to do from there to here, and they're slowly going to try to implement those things over time. But that's speculation, and I know a lot of people get turned off by this lagging sensation that we're getting time in and time out, and like border or hexes going down. It really ruins the immersion, and it really can mess up operations, which can mess up wars, which, sounds cheesy, but it's real. One battle doesn't necessarily dictate a war, but it could have a massive influence on it, right? And so when a hex goes down, or there's lag, or whatever, all those things add up. It's death by 1,000 cuts. So, I do agree that they do need to fix the servers, but I would probably say that all three of us, I don't know about Legendary, but Graff, you're kind of saying it's probably not as easy as just fix it. There's probably money that needs to be implemented in it, and there's a lot of things that probably need in there.
I also have to admit that I am by no means in any way or form capable of knowing what devs have to fix. Like, I'm not into software engineering. I have no idea about server infrastructures. I have no idea about that. And all I know is other people talking. I don't know how valid their opinions are as well. I heard a lot of people mentioning that there is like engine limitations, because I think they're still running on Unreal Engine 4. To what I heard other people say, I did not really put a lot of research into it because I'm just so far off the topic. But I hear that Unreal Engine 4 is somewhat known for having an issue with displaying a lot of entities, which this game is notorious for. And if that is the case, and that is the limiting factor, unless they would switch the engine, which would be an enormous amount of effort, then there's most likely not going to be an easy fix. And they have to get done with some kind of ad hoc solution. But that is all very speculative. And as I said, I'm not in the topic to even remotely know what they would have to do to fix the issue. Right. So, yeah. That's my issue regarding the server issues. It's just very obnoxious in the recent development. Like, it's really there were always like some lags. You always had the issue if you were working amongst concrete fortresses. There was always a certain amount of input lag, or lag in general. I think the majority of us that played during 96 and 100, like before they fixed the tanks stuttering, it was also super common that tanks had like they were like super laggy as well, and they fixed that. But there is something noticeable recently, that it is just more. Like, I cannot pinpoint what exactly caused it. I don't know what exactly is the issue, but it's very noticeable that recently the servers are really struggling. That's all I can say to that.
Legendary, I definitely want to hear you talk. I can see you just stewing there, ready to explode with an answer here. But the one thing I would say is, one thing I've realized, don't get me wrong, I don't have a space computer, but I have a beast. And when I'm getting frame lag, like, I have really good internet and I have a really beast of a PC, and when I'm getting a frame itch and it stops me and it stutters and it wheels me back a little bit, again, I'm not tech savvy enough. God forbid I had someone build my PC. Blah, I know people just threw up, but straight up, I know there's not an easy answer to this, but I do think it needs to be on the forefront of issues that they need to start streamlining out. The devs, meaning. I think it is important. And Legendary, for some reason, something's telling me you've told me you've done this kind of engineering and software stuff before, and you kind of have a little bit of. I remember this conversation with you. You have a little bit more knowledge. Please enlighten us, Pee-wee brains,
Yes.
on your
Please.
massive dongle brain here. Kind of enlighten us on what your way in on that is.
Yeah, so a little bit of IRL background for me. I used to be a game dev. I was mostly Unity based, so I wasn't Unreal. So used to do a lot of project development, and game prototypes for Hasbro. But this was quite a while ago. But I do have a engineering background. So I software engineering background, and from what I understand is, Foxhole was primarily built as a prototype for a live service game in Unreal, and then the devs basically just kept layering on top of it. So what we see nowadays with a lot of the gameplay lag, the gameplay stuttering, etc., was essentially what we call, that's the best way to describe it. It's basically just old legacy code that wasn't highly optimized because it was initially just prototyped to get working, now starting to see cracks in the way that code basically runs. And that's the most simplified way that I can really explain it. So the devs did do a pass on gameplay optimizations in the last update. So that was this update now, so update 60, that released like almost 2 months ago now. Where they did get rid of a lot of old, what we call legacy code. It's basically code that kind of stuck things together, but it was probably, I wouldn't say it was rushed, but it was built under a certain time frame, and a lot of that code doesn't hold true with the current frameworks of Unreal. The thing with game development is, specifically a live service game, like Foxhole and other games like Sea of Thieves and Warframe and all those other games that are all built in Unreal, you have to understand that it is always a running task to keep things up to date, but also keep things stable. The game engine itself, the Unreal game engine, constantly pushes new updates and new features, and when those features get updated, normally games that are up to date with modern standards for computers and things like that running are only games that are still in development before release. Now, live service games are a little bit harder, because with live service games, you can realistically only update your engine. You can only update your game code to match the engine when the game engine, or the actual game itself, is halted in development itself. So what that means is, if we want a complete overhaul for network code, or if we want a complete overhaul with game performance, without the devs literally taking the game down for a couple of months to get it sorted, which could absolutely kill the game, because a live service game model runs on the fact that it's perpetually running 24/7. The only thing that the devs can do is a very small amount of tweaking, optimization, code removal, asset refreshing, asset refreshing, and then rolling that on a patch by patch basis. Now, luckily, we know that not this patch, but the next patch, according to the roadmap, which I have open on the screen over here, it literally says maintenance update. That could literally mean that we aren't getting any toys in the following patch, and it's just going to be a pass to either update the game engine to the latest version of Unreal, clean up a lot of legacy code, clean up a lot of under the hood stuff that us gamers will never see and never understand. And hopefully that from then, I'm optimistic that they're going to be cleaning a lot of things up in preparation for a large amount of asset release that's going to come out with Airborne, as we're all expecting. We're all expecting hundreds, if not thousands, of new things being added to the game and interacting with the game world. So yeah, unless we're all ready to say, hey, no war for 3 months, and just let the devs update the engine and update things. Realistically, I don't think they'll be able to do a massive rollout. And you wake up one day and you press the update button and boom, your game no longer lags. It's just an unrealistic. It's a blue sky thinking, and tell me what color dragon you want sort of fantasy wish.
Blue. I want a blue one. No. So here is my question, because I play a lot of other titles other than Foxhole, and I know Tarkov kind of had this same ordeal, right? There was a prototype game that wasn't supposed to be big time, and they had a lot of spaghetti code, and it took them 4 years of gameplay and a lot of bullshit, but it eventually got to the point. What I think they're doing is kind of what I said, not as educatedly, that's how smart I am, not as educated as Legendary was just saying, but essentially what I'm thinking is happening is they're getting the game good enough to release Airborne, right? And that's like, there's even today, unless you want to add Space Force, but that wasn't in fucking World War II, you had sea, Navy, land, air, and I call it ground, so that would be like arty. Sea, air, land, ground. You have all assets of warfare that were dedicated to the time of World War II, essentially ready to go. God forbid, we already have V2 rockets. So, looking in on this, what I imagine is exactly what Legendary is saying is probably their mindset right now. Get the game good enough to release a Airborne update, and then kind of go with what I was kind of talking about earlier, where they're building code in the background with a separate development team and a different engine. That way they can already have all this stuff kind of tested, and then it'd be the big crossover, which would be quote-unquote Foxhole 2. And once that happens, it could be this is speculation of what they want to do. But my guesstimate is, to keep their company running, why would they not do a separate game for the big overhaul and new engine? Not
that big.
Goddamn, dude! Imagine Foxhole with seamless. People think it'd be like sunshine and rainbows, dude. The game's balance right now is around server to server hopping. There's a lot of things that need to change when you go seamless. A lot of things have to change. Not a lot, but there are a lot of things that do balance around seamless gameplay and non-seamless gameplay. And it's not really looked at right now because we can't even imagine it. It's not in our hands tangible. Looking at the game and where they're going, I do think they're moving towards a new engine. I do think they're starting to try to evolutionize their kit, their game. Because I really, for anyone that has been here, if you guys remember, like, the Summit 1G, when he came into the game and how bad and big the pop got, guys, I'm telling you, there's names already coming for Airborne. Pirate Software. I literally told him
I was coming to Airborne.
14,000 dudes in his channel every day, minimum.
Yep.
That's... I don't even know the number.
Pirate's already committed.
It's not double, it's not triple, it's not quadruple. On his stream. This is like quadruple our fucking number of pop right now with his numbers only. And if you think they're not going to want to follow his one side, think again. Like, I'm telling you, everyone's going to want to be, oh my god, I'm with him in the game. Like, no, dude, it's going to be hell on earth. We're going to need... Dude, we're going to need Able, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, we're going to need Zeta or Zed fucking open up. You know what I mean? The servers are going to have to, the floodgates will open. The Red Sea will part, brother. It will come. And when that happens, man, if people buy in, they're like, man, this game's dope as fuck. I like this. I like this. Damn, Jimmy, that's some gourmet shit. You know what I'm saying? You hit that level, you're going to have to implement new engines. You're going to have to implement a better, more stable connection because we're already having struggles with 3,000 players and 2 servers. Boys, buckle up, you know?
Actually, Bear, I have 3 points on immediate service stability. If by some miracle the devs are watching, there's actually 3 sort of miracle fixes that they could probably incorporate. Which, I mean, again, I'm just a player looking in. I don't know what's happening in the background whatsoever. All I know is some aspects of the game that works, and it works for other game companies, and maybe that will make things better. One is. One of the things they've already done is even though it isn't working as well right now, but when they did roll it out was really good, was not relying on their homebrew, like their internally made voice comm system, because they moved over to, I think it's Vixio, and Vixio is a lot more stable and it requires network code that is separate from the Foxhole game client. So when they move services out the game and it's run by a different service and it's managed by basically like a packaged deal from another company, that offloads a lot of resources from your PC to just focus on the game running more smoothly. So if there are more systems like that, that would be a great step to make the game more stable. And I think that could be I think the devs are actively looking at finding more solutions to fixing issues like that, because they realized, I think it was like 4 major updates ago, they literally just said, listen guys, we tried doing our own homebrew voice comm system. It doesn't work. It's not reliable. It crashes. The audio quality was shite. So let's try Vixio. And then they rolled it out and then it worked. And that got us cross-faction voice chat again, because that was disabled for a very long time. And then it came because they disabled it because because of a technical limitation on what the game can perform with. And then they switched over to Vixio, and then it came back, and then bam, it's all fine again. So that's the first thing they can do. It's just probably offload a lot more services to external packages or external companies to do things. I mean, how many games do you play nowadays, Unreal Engine games, that don't do internal anti-cheat? They use easy anti-cheat, or they use Protect V or anything like that. It's the same deal. It's instead of the game developers having to worry about developing and keeping anti-cheat systems in place, it's just handled externally the entire time. So yeah, handle things better. Second thing is, and this is a tough one, is less reliance on Steam. A lot of the game services and a lot of the communication between the game's network code goes through the Steam servers. And you'll notice that whenever there's massive amount of lags or hexes going offline, what's the first maintenance message that we get when you log the fuck in? Warning, Steam is down. You know, we will be doing server rollbacks.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys heard it here first.
It's an over-reliance on Steam.
You guys heard it here first. We're selling Foxhole to Microsoft, and we're going to get microtransactions out the ass. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I've been waiting to say that for like a minute straight, dude. I've been licking my lips waiting. I mean, you're right, though.
But it's a point, right? Like, in general, the expectations of people sometimes need to be a bit humbled, especially if you look at the size of the dev team that is still actively working on Foxhole itself, right? There is limitations on how much you can do, and outsourcing, right? Like, for example, a lot of people actively complain how bad the regiment screen is, right? I cannot pin messages, I don't have this feature, I don't have that feature. That's all legitimate concerns, right? But their workaround was, you can just link your Discord link to your regiment, and you can outsource this entire problem a bit to the community, yes, but you also free up immense amounts of dev time that way. Good example with the voice over IP as well. For so many people, crossover faction chat is now a staple again of the game, and I also really like it. Like, I mean, obviously it's the internet. There's always the bad side of it as well. but the majority of the interactions are like really good. It's funny, it's engaging, it adds to the gameplay and to the immersion as well. But yeah, I just think that some people need to realize sometimes that there is limitations, also in regards of how fast they can implement changes, right? I always would like that they're a bit more communicative, but I can also imagine that a lot of engagement with other people online is very problematic, because a lot of people can't hold themselves back. And yeah, like for example, just acknowledging that they know that the server right now is not the way that they would like it to be, I think would like help a lot with the patience of players, right?
I agree.
Just knowing that they are
more
aware
communication.
of it.
Yeah.
But then again, I also understand that they don't want to openly communicate with the community, because if I remember correctly, it already went wrong a lot in the past. It's the same with community managers, right? Like a lot of people asking, why is there no community moderation team that could like help with all the other issues? Then again, we already had it. It already went wrong once, right? And do you want to burn yourself again on the same topic, right? So
Yeah.
there's always two sides to the medal, and yeah, it's not very satisfying to come to that conclusion, I have to admit. But,
There's no other side to awarding
Yeah,
HGD's medal. There's only one side, the hard side. You never get to see the soft, squishy inside.
yeah, it just bounce.
Yeah.
So this actually brings me into my third point, because I think the third point is this is my spicy take. Here's my spicy take for the first spicy take of the podcast.
Let's go.
It's gonna be a tough one. We're gonna have to buckle up, but a lot of community based external Foxhole tools like Foxhole Stats, Foxhole HQ, and basically services that rely on the Foxhole War API, which is basically a network part of the game that anyone can access. A lot of those tools will have to be throttled, if not closed down, to make the game run more smoothly as well. So,
I mean,
here's the thing. When you play Foxhole, not to go again, won't go into too technical details, but when you play Foxhole, your computer connects to a server, and the server communicates to each other, and they send messages to each other, and then you play the game. And as you move your character around, your character's movement and position gets reflected on the game server as well. That is done through basically like a gateway that literally just says, here's where your character is, this is where they move, and then the server accepts that your character has moved, and then that gets reflected on the server code. Now, within Foxhole, and this is one of the good parts of Foxhole that we currently all enjoy and benefit of, is that gateway is not just for the game itself. The game is one of what we call the clients, or one of the programs that can connect to that gateway and send the server messages. The other part of Foxhole is the community developed websites like Foxhole HQ. Love Foxhole HQ. I support them on Ko-Fi. They're awesome. And Foxhole Stats. When you open the website, you're essentially opening a game client that is communicating to the game server and fetching live stats. That's why when you open your browser and you go to Foxhole Stats and you see what the current state of the war is, that is also sending messages to the game server that could negatively impact how well the server performs.
no,
Now, there are a lot of...
No.
So here's what I was going to say. There are a lot of safeguards. To prevent players from abusing this. However, if there are a legitimately large number of players requesting information to the game server through an external tool, and there's no malicious intent, so it's not a DDoS attack and it's not an overwhelm, it's just a genuine peak gameplay hours and everyone is logging in and everyone has Foxhole Stats open because, keeping a separate copy of the map open is a nice way to play the game, then that is something that we have to maybe accept, that some of these tools will either need to be throttled. So, for example, Foxhole Stats doesn't update every single time you press the refresh button on your computer. Maybe we only get server information once every hour or once every half an hour. Give out old information that's not relevant and up to date, and we just... I'm going to say this outright. This is the spice tech. The community just has to suck it up. We have to accept that if we want a seamless stutterless gameplay experience, we have to make sacrifice. We as the community have to make sacrifices in reducing the amount of strain on the game servers. And the first thing that needs to go, unfortunately, is going to have to be some of the live update features of these external tools.
Here's what I would say to this. This is the other spicy take, in my opinion. And this counteracts what you just said and lets the community choose. Right? You've now proposed a possible solution. There are people that would say they don't like that. There are people that if you brought that case up would vote for that. This is where the devs can go. Guys, let's have a survey. Let's see how many people will be willing to give up frames for the information. This would be a good point in time for the community to have a really good voice and a really good take on and a stance on. Because I understand it one half. Graff is saying he wants better frames. Everyone wants better frames. But I just had someone internal on my Twitch
it's
chat.
not even
He
frames,
just said,
to be honest. Like
my point is
I'm
better
not talking
servers.
frames. Yeah.
Better servers.
Yeah.
Point being, there are people that would vote against that. And I think the majority should take. I think we should have, theoretically, if you want, a vote on it. I think there should be a survey. I think that this is a great opportunity for the devs to give us the choice. And if
it would
honestly,
be a good example, right? If
it
that's
would.
An issue,
and
yeah.
I think if they want us to really be a part of the development of the game, let us help. If they want to take reins of their own game and pick better frames and better servers for their company, they need to do their own stuff. But I think this would be a great opportunity and a great example of let the players choose how their game goes.
Assuming that the problem that just was brought up is actually causing a majority of the issues, right? Like it's always
exactly,
an assumption.
you know, and that's I just think that this would be really important.
I just want to reiterate. This is you're not because I don't want rumors to spread from here. You're not getting lag in game because someone opened voxel stats. That is not holistically true. But
it could
can't ignore the fact
it's going on FUD. It's going on Reddit, buddy. You're fucked. Foxhole stats is fucking cooked, buddy. You're cooked.
Anyway, no. I'm just saying that we as a community have to accept that there might be some additional server strain where if you're running a client of Foxhole and you're opening Foxhole stats and you're hitting that refresh button to see if that relic base went down, you could be part of the problem. And we have to accept that some of these services might be throttled. Like, the devs can put a thing on their gateway that says, if you are not a game client, then you can't request data every 60 seconds. Maybe it'll be like, you can only get a copy of the map every hour. That is a realistic approach that the developers can do. And I'll be honest, the Foxhole devs to this point have been completely transparent with how their back-end server code works. There's literally a section on the Foxhole website where you can say, hey, we like it when people make like third-party tools and external stuff.
Legendary. And, hold on, you're lagging really bad.
Not to me.
Am I? Nope.
Is this me?
Well, for me it's fine.
He completely stopped.
Face cam?
Yeah, your face cam completely froze for me.
Switch it off. Is that any better?
Yeah, good.
Okay, there we go. I'm all face cam. Works for me. But yeah, like I was saying, is the Foxhole devs are awesome because they're one of the few live service games where the players actually have access to the back end code. Like there's a section on the Foxhole website you can go to, and it will tell you in excruciating detail how you can request information, like what the current state of the war is, how many players are logged in, how many players are sitting in queue. It's all publicly available information. But to access that code, you're gonna have to send a network request to receive that code or to receive that data and then use it. And that exchange of information puts strain on the server. And if there's too many people playing Foxhole and just sitting there with Foxhole stats open and hitting refresh like a mad person, that could add strain to the server. And we have to acknowledge that the awesome tools that we all love and use. I mean, fuck, I love Foxhole stats. I love sitting there with Foxhole stats and like figuring out where I need to shoot my RD and what wind direction I need to point my guns at and stuff. It's awesome. But maybe I'm too over reliant on it. Maybe I need to cut back on that to help the performance in the game. Because if I do it, and if I get the rest of HVL to do it, and if I get the entire Colonial faction to do it, that is 2,000 less players. That is putting less strain on the server.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
that's something that we need to consider doing.
Without actual data on how much it actually impacts percentage-wise, right? It's all speculation, right?
Like, it is speculation. I agree. Yes. No, absolutely. I'm speculating.
And I mean, I don't think that you have to go too deep into it and don't have to like cope yourself into helping the server situation by not using those apps unless we get information, right? And actual data.
So can I get a video?
Yeah, I agree. It's just a suggestion. Yeah.
Can I get someone to put some tinfoil hat on Legendary and a meme saying that he hates Foxhole stats, wiggling around Reddit? That'd be really sick, guys. No, I mean, you're right, but I do like where Legendary's going and at least experimenting with the idea of where the extra shit is coming from. Like, whether he's right or wrong, he's on the right track. We need to start looking at, these places where can we cut the extra server bullshit going, and maybe Foxhole stats taking only 5%, but if 5% is going to help servers, it's 5% better. And again, I think that's where a vote would come in, and I think there would be some math that needs to be, done and proof of what is doing what. But I agree, if it's only doing, 1% of the servers are getting chewed up by Foxhole stats, it's not going to help, But if it's taking 35% and we're not seeing it, we should act on it. So I just think Legendary, whether he's right or wrong on that specific topic or that specific set, I think that is the right way to think about it and start looking at each individual sector, pulling from the servers and seeing what we can cut and it be healthy for the game via just let it sit where it is, but I've liked where this has gone, and I think servers obviously are a big part in all of our. Well, it's probably one of the biggest parts in the game, and I think it should be focused and addressed.
I mean, right now, in my personal opinion, balance-wise, the game is in a very okay state. Obviously, like, depending on how deep someone delves into whatever gameplay cycle, there might be some small details that some person dislikes, right? But I would not say, at least from my Warden perspective, I would say that there currently is no equipment imbalance that automatically makes one side win the war. I mean, to be fair, it's questionable if even in the most atrocious balance states that we ever had, if there was ever a situation where only equipment could win a war. But in the end, it's most likely always going to be pop that wins wars. Yep. But I mean, then again, right, if there's a very oppressive piece of equipment that just makes you want to quit the war, that obviously also has effects on population and morale and everything. So, but again, like the balance, in my opinion, is quite okay, quite good. I would not say it's perfect. I also think it will never be, can't be. And now other problems are more prevalent. I think the server issues are very obvious recently, even without balance being so good and everyone talking about other issues. I think it's just currently very just very noticeable. But yeah.
So Legendary, what would you like out of the game, since Graff wants bigger and better servers and ways to fix the servers? What would you like?
I think for me the biggest one is I think there could be a bit of a shakeup on the identity of both factions. And Bear, that you and I have been chatting about this as well. I think Wardens have an exceptionally good identity. Like, we know why Wardens excel in certain parts of the war. We know exactly why. And Colonials had that identity maybe like 2 or 3 major updates ago, but nowadays it's difficult for Colonial players to literally sit down and figure out what the faction is good at. Maybe Airborne will change that.
I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I will like to say I have had this conversation with Legendary, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and I know you Graff weren't really here when this was like the big heyday, but in like the 80s and 90s wars, it was the brotherly love infantry faction. Hoorah rah, grab your boma, fucking just horde. Yeah, it was just no number mattered, just dive. We were the horde faction, and I feel like it's slowly getting swept. And I agree with Legendary so much, and I think in a game where there's server pop caps, I think to have the MPF horde faction is more of a fucking nerf than a buff, because when you're meeting...
but you are not anymore. Like, I get from a theme perspective, the faction is in that point, but equipment-wise, stat-wise, if you look at Wikipedia, right, it's not the nicest comparison, but they did a lot to the tanks, that they are not the MPF tanks anymore. You still have all the discounts on it, but the majority of tanks nowadays have way more HP, which is arguably more important than armor. And in a lot of cases, they also have more armor, or the same, and the same bounce chances as well. Like, the devs did a lot to get both sides way more equal on the performance of equipment, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah.
There's always extremes in certain directions, but...
I agree to an extent. The scary part now is how close are the factions really getting? Because right now the Wardens have a really strong identity with Naval. I played Warden last war. The Naval gameplay is so good. It is so good on the Wardens. I love Warden Naval. Like, seriously, like, it was so much fun. We were able to play on islands. It was so much fun. If you try and play islands on Colonials, you're basically relegated to a LARP or a troll or crazy or a noob.
I hate this interruption, right? But you have to ask yourself, how much can the devs actually do about it, right? Because I think wholeheartedly these issues that they have that are now occurring, neither Wardens nor devs can fix it. It's a decision a faction has to do, right? Like, finding their identity again, what do they want to excel at or something. You can't blame devs for that. In all honesty, I hate doing this because it's now like nearly 2 years ago again that they added Navy or something. But at the beginning, Wardens had a submarine that did no damage because torpedoes were dog shit at that point, and the other faction had a destroyer. I have no idea how of these prerequisites it is possible that one faction developed a better Navy, like, culture, quote unquote. I hate this culture word in the Foxhole context because it's very, like, loaded, right? It's like skill issue or something. Like, it's very loaded. A lot of people use it to rage bait. It's not that intent, right? But there's like the faction approach, like the Warden faction approaches Navy completely differently.
So may I ask you a question? Now, I use this analogy a lot. May I ask you a question here that will kind of entice my point in why I think a lot of things are the way they are. I am a Colonial loyalist. I don't care if I'm winning or losing, right? But I would say a lot of people back when the Collies had a 6-war win streak with the Stygian Bolt. We had 6 wars where the Wardens had no counter to the Stygian. And then immediately you see pop switch as soon as you see the Wardens get the STD. And the STD rolled for like 2 wars straight. So I kind of feel like it's the exact same encounter in this situation where one side has aka the Destroyer, that can bomb coastal for free. And at that time, everyone was saying, we didn't really understand how important Navy was, and it was considered LARPer on both sides. But then you see torpedoes were dog shit, and then you see a massive buff. And, I'm not complaining that torpedoes are the only thing in Navy, but I will say, much as you said, I want to get geared up with, 20 fucking dudes and get torped one time, and then, go, and I'll even say it here, too. Another thing about the Kali Navy is we have to go through shitty waterways. It takes almost an hour to get out of some places. And when you get torped one time, win or die or not, it's either you die or you have to go back 4 fucking hours to repair your boat. And I'm not saying that, the colonial submarine isn't capable of doing the same things, but I would really argue anyone in the game to really come try the Warden versus Kali submarines.
A lot of them are right now, and I hate to break it to you. I will not call names, which makes it hard to prove my point, right? I know a lot of guys that specialize in Warden submarines. They tried the Trident last war excessively. It's really cope to say the Trident is getting massively outperformed.
I would argue.
I hate to say it that way.
Well, then why would you explain the East?
But I would also
How would you
also
explain
ask
the East?
you.
How would you explain the East getting fucking bombarded and navally destroyed without any counterplay?
I was in the East, right, with 11E.
100.
No one fucking locked in. No one fucking QRF's Navy.
Big Bear. Well, I can answer East, Graff. Let me help out here. Big Bear. East got fucked because the Wardens stacked vets like crazy in the East. I was playing WL Blue. That I played. You met me with my sticky nades. When I was not throwing stickies at your B2D, I was running shells for every single major Warden naval.
Yeah, guys, this isn't helping
regiment.
The part where I'm saying
was loading in.
Subs weren't getting through.
East.
Subs are not getting through.
But dude,
and subs aren't getting torps while we're getting torped. I don't like, boys. The argument isn't over who's winning or losing.
Difference.
But you just said Wardens came over and did it. Why couldn't they reciprocate it on the East if these are veteran Warden navies that are getting... you just said we got dicked on the East. But they were Warden fucking Navy guys that got dicked on. How does that check if you're saying they're not equal when you just said we got... My point is...
What are you exactly preferring to?
My point is...
Maybe take a bit of... Maybe take a bit the heat out.
I'm not... I'll agree. My point is, you said Warden Navy came to help Kalis, and it's a lot of cope, right? Then explain to me...
No, you got it wrong. No. I'm saying that the performance differences between the Trident and the Naki, especially with the recent nerf on Naki turn rate and the improvement on the Trident one, is by no means the reason that the Trident is getting outperformed compared to the Naki. Like, there is side grades on both of them, right? The Naki is more mobile, it is smaller, Trident can instantly rearm torpedoes. I don't know why no one... And you can still use it to suicide on facilities with the 120. You don't want to use the 120 in any other... You only want to use it to bombard land. Like, it's not used for naval engagements, right? But the biggest difference, and that's what Legendary was hinting at, is it's not the equipment. At this point, it's veterancy that makes the difference. There's just no veterancy
that's where I argue.
In the Kali Navy.
That's where I argue, though, because the point that I just said was you said Warden Navy came over to Kalis, right? We can both agree on this statement. When some of the
I say Warden Navy, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, so when you're talking about, let's just say a veteran Navy regiment came to the Kalis from the Warden side. Can we agree on this? Okay, then explain to me why they couldn't conduct... Hold on.
It wasn't...
why could they not conduct the exact same
I get what you're going for.
Numbers on the Kali side as the Warden side? So my indifference of what I'm trying to say here... You're claiming that it's just equipment. You're saying colonial equipment is the exact same and it's all skill issue.
I'm not.
But I would argue... Well, then that's
I
what
mean, you're framing it right now, Berg. Like,
Well, I'm
come
not
on.
framing
Like,
it.
first of all,
I'm
stop
trying
dumping
to.
down my. No.
I'm trying
You
to
say I'm
understand.
saying it's the same. I did not say it's the same. Then I now wanted to iterate
You called
on
it cope.
and the iterate. Yes, and again, for you, it's a very heated word. It's like saying someone is a skill issue. You instantly say, okay, I will iterate on it now. And I beg you, like, if I say something, don't say I said something else. Like, I did not say that it's the same. I just said that the performance differences of the Trident and the Naki do not correlate with the equipment performance. Like, and the issue is, like, if people that specialize in submarines come to the other faction, it does not mean you have the same infrastructure supporting it. That is also what Legendary was hinting at. Just
That's what
because
I
you
was
have
gonna say,
veterancy
yeah.
players doesn't mean you have the entire like, you don't get players on the Collie side to jump into your submarines. Like, we had veterancy submarine players on the Collie side that were exceptionally frustrated, play the faction, because the majority of the members that do engage in naval combat on the Collie sides have no idea how it works. Like, we had examples where, like, quote unquote veteran Collie regiments did not know that torpedoes have a minimum fuse distance. And then they shot 5 torpedoes and were wondering why it didn't explode, like, why there was no damage. There is a minimum fuse distance. You need to play the game more to understand it. And people, like, and the entire dockyard infrastructure, the naval QRFing, Navy is inherently QRF dependent, because the only way to counter Navy is doing Navy yourself or have an exceptionally good base next to the water that does artillery work. And right now, it's not just a veterancy, it's also general pop, right? That is lacking to QRF this shit. Like, there's not enough players QRFing the islands, doing the daily resets, like QRFing artillery bases. There's not enough people setting even up artillery bases to be used against naval assets. There's a lot of issues that correlate on the Collie faction that make it way harder for anyone playing Navy to achieve the same stuff. The equipment, in my personal opinion, cannot be at fault. Like, you just have an inherent lack of infrastructure. And with Navy, you just need large regiments. Like, you can make it do. Telephone Frick, like the regiment telephone, is a good example how you can leverage randoms to the maximum, right? But you still need a good core group that is all sitting on Discord and they all watch through the spectator and, like, through the spotter of the frigate. Do you think that anyone in the, like, Telephone Frick, all the gunners are watching the spectator, and not a single time does the spotter tell them any azimuth or distance? Every one of those gunners is doing it between their ears. It's head calculations. They see the azimuth, they see the distance, and the rest of the correction, everything else, is done by the gunners themselves. You cannot do that with randoms. Everyone needs to be on the Discord. And average regiment size, there's so much accumulating in the differences in performances in Navy, and it's not the equipment. It's a very complicated topic, and it's very delicate, and yeah.
I would just like to add as well to Graff. It's great that 11E went green last war and they played, but they were one veteran regiment. That was,
and we faced Telefric, we faced Scum, we faced so many, like, we had 5 to 6 frigates daily entering fucking breakwater trying to kill our base. 5 to 6 frigates per day.
Yep.
And first of all, we had major issues getting enough QRF to even man 6 guns. We had 12 guns prepared. We barely had enough QRF guys showing up for 6 guns. And we never, next to never, had a naval asset responding for enemy navy, for Warden Navy entering the Hex.
Yeah, the only time I started seeing other regiments helping 11E with specifically anti-naval duties was for 20th, but they didn't do it during the skirmish in Endless Shore. They only started really getting involved in Reavers.
Yeah.
And that's just like there was no submarine that hit the battleship that went in and destroyed the the bone concrete base on the north side. And I know we had a big discussion about cuttlers and satchels, and I'm not going to get into that, but there was a battleship, and it was just south of Old Jack Tar. Not a single collie sub came to fucking torpedo it, and that ship sat there for 3 hours shelling the shit out of the entire shoreline. Do you want to know why? Because WL was feeding them 150 the entire time. It was a CAF battleship. And then once the CAF battleship eventually took too much howitzer damage and it got 4 smokes, the moment it left region, guess who showed up? The next battleship showed up. I can't remember who it was. I think it was third.
Yep.
Third showed up with their battleship.
Side, right? On Warden side.
And then we started feeding them.
As soon as on the Warden side, right? They have listening kits all over the place. It's a listening kit battle as well, especially in RDCs, which you have to place every 2 hours. As soon as they see a collie ship like entering Terminus and Vanguard, like there's choke points all over the place that make it very easy for you to spot naval stuff. I guarantee you, half an hour to 45 minutes latest, a ship will departure in Morgans. Latest.
Yep. Yes.
It's not happening on the collie side, and it's not because.
Yeah.
And you cannot blame the equipment for that. It's
the other thing
it's a
is,
pop issue, it's a veterancy issue, it's a lot of issues. The majority of these issues can't be fixed by devs, can't be fixed by wardens. It's an issue, right? And there's a multifaceted, like there's a lot of things going wrong. I don't have a good proposition how to fix them, but it's not because the Naki is spinning on the Trident. Like, you can buff the Trident all you want. You can nerf torpedo damage if you want to. Makes it, maybe the entrance curve is a bit easier for beginners, because I'm not gonna lie, right now the learning curve for Navy is exceptionally steep, because you get punished really easily, which was not the case back then, right? Like, it was very easy, it's right now very easy to get punished in Navy, and you need to go home very quickly, but yeah. That's my 2 cents on it.
For someone that's done
having less
Colonial Navy,
yeah.
For someone that's done Colonial Navy, and someone that's been in the Colonial Navy QRF and fought with CCF, and fought with Trident, and fought with a lot of people, I would argue a lot of people that sit there and say that equipment is not an issue. Not gonna lie, enough people. I would argue this. I know there's a lot of bugs on the Frigg right now that are making it exceptionally good compared to the Destroyer, and we can cope and correlate all the things we want to. But here's the fact of the matter. Colonials shouldn't have to indulge in Navy. If they want to win, we should have a better way of countering it. There's not a great way of countering boats wholeheartedly right now, other than boats themselves. And a lot of people, coastal batteries don't even do it because you usually get it away. It deters them. I wouldn't call it a counter. It's a deterrent. It stops how much damage they can leak in.
That's the baseline, right? That's the baseline, and not even that is getting done.
So, but to be fair, let's look at the whole situation as it is. You don't think the Trident or the Naki, you say that the equipment imbalance, it's not an excuse. I would argue that a boat 3 times as large as the Naki, trying to go through those narrow waterways and trying to align shots is a lot bigger task than a lot of people would give credit. I would argue that a bigger radar cross-section is a way bigger issue than a lot of people would give it credit. And I would also argue that you give away all the benefits of a Navy torpedo shooter submarine to go top side. I understand we can get our torpedoes reloaded at sea, but the argument is we're not even normally getting out to sea. We're out popped in every facet of the game, and you've even said it. When there are people in our backlines laying watch listening kits, They have people ready to QRF and do the boats, and you're out popping us in every single war. And most colonials do not want to do Navy. The fact they're forcing our hand to do it is outrageous. You don't make any other asset in the game have to do it. There's multiple ways to skin the same cat in every other asset of the game. If you want to balance Navy, you need to balance pop. How you balance pop is up to the devs. But when there's 10% pop in difference every single war, and that's a proven fact from Robert's video that was studied, and when there's a 33% win rate on the Colonials versus the Warden's 66% win rate over a 2-year span, there's arguments to say, yes, the Warden Navy is dominant. And you can say that the Wardens try really hard, and I will give credit where credit is due. They do put more pop into it. But I would also ask you this. Are you going to go into a battle that you know you're going to lose? Are you going to go screw rares at a ridiculous rate just to go get, like, vet stack dumpstered? No. No one wants to play that or learn that because you're going against people that are just going to pub stomp you.
So you want to have equipment that automatically wins you the engagement?
I'm not saying I want equipment that automatically wins the engagement, but what I'm saying is I want equipment that can help us win without having to do Navy. There's a big culture difference in how Colonials and Warden regiments work. And I would argue that Warden regiments, from what I understand of them, is do what we say or fall in line. A lot of Kali is very big on doing more PMC, let you do your thing, we're going to do our thing. And that's not that. To make us follow the exact same suit and do the exact same thing when it's an asymmetric game, and you're saying that we need to meet you on the same fields when it's an asymmetric game, is bullshit. Like, if it's asymmetric, fine. Let the Wardens have the Navy. But what else are we getting in that trade? You're even arguing that the tanks are getting more balanced. Sure, I would argue the infantry's getting more balanced over time, which used to be our thing. And now that Navy's the predominant feature, I would almost argue that you have to have let air be Kali, or you're fucking giving every facet even or a win to the Warden. And if you make us forcefully go into Navy, we need adequate equipment, because you're arguing that... Hold on. You're arguing...
The way that you're arguing...
Hold on. Your argument is we have a submarine that should be going and bombarding backline Navy or backline facility with our 120, which
That's
also
not my argument.
adds... Well, hold on. That is a statement you said.
No,
they're
you
two
put it in
different
the wrong
boats.
framing. I'm not letting you frame me in the wrong way, but I'm not. Now you're framing me. I said it's a side grade to the Naki, and it has more capability. Like, it has a different capability portfolio than the Naki, and you can also use it to bombard land and potentially facilities. I'm not saying that's the prime use of the Trident. That's two different.
I'm not framing
things.
you. I said a statement that you said in a frame that you wanted. I said that you want us to go back there, or not want us to go back there, but a possibility we can have is to go bombard facilities in the back line, which, yes, may be true. But again, with how extremely hard it is for our boat to maneuver with the exact same battery life, I don't know the speed and difference, and the turning, it's not worth it for us to go that deep. We don't get any benefit out of it.
If to my knowledge, if you ballast it correctly, that's what my submarine guy told me, the 180 turn is 8 seconds difference.
Faster or slower for the
crazy.
Trident?
No, slower for the Trident. It's slower. It is not faster than the Naki. But 8 seconds on a 180-degree turn, in if we talk about Navy turn rate compared to the other assets, then you have to learn how to ballast your ship correctly.
I would argue that it's very easy to say that gear is adequate on both sides without playing it. And I think a lot of wardens say that it's very easy to play Collie Navy without doing it. And the guys that are coming over that have some success,
I
it's
initially
really
said
easy.
I initially said I'm not into Navy, which I'm not. I'm not playing it a lot. If you tell me now that you think you're adequate to have a very sophisticated discussion about Navy, I would pick a big doubt into it, because I don't think that you put in the hours required for that. And I don't think that I did it either. And I think I did not have it either, and I put like a couple 100 hours into it. And I'm not into it at all. Like, I don't know. I think there's people out there that really know the differences in equipment. There's not a lot of them. And I will not go into Navy discussion here, like too deep into the equipment differences, but they are not as big as people make them to be.
I think that's from a warden
8
perspective.
seconds difference. Yeah, I can agree. Maybe you think that is, but you can ask Legendary if he, like, for example, I don't know, maybe I'm now going deep into it, but I would guess, depends. I don't know.
So let me just ask you this then. Would you adequately say that, let's say 1,000 people play on either side, that 1,000 people just outright are just getting out skill issued and don't want to try things? Because I think that's a bold statement. I'm asking you if that's what you think.
No, my main issue, I think the main issue that collies have right now is, in general, that affects Navy, that also affects land combat, is they have a atrocious vet retention. Like, the majority of vets eventually choose to play Warden. And I think it's not because... Oh, it's because it's just atrocious to play a vet on the fucking collie side. Because unless your regiment... Yeah, let me iterate. It's because... And I know a lot of collies don't agree with me. I had the experience on Sigil last war as well. I'm not saying that I'm very good at communicating with people that I don't like. I'm not. But you guys lack something like V-Discord. Like a veteran hub. You don't have a dedicated veteran hub where veterans can play with every other regiment, even while not being in the regiment. Like, when a veteran, and if the regiment is not in a coalition,
what about Sigil?
With the other regis, it's very hard. It's nowhere close. It's nowhere close to the integration of veteran players with other regis on V-Discord. That's the biggest difference. And it's just not fun. Like, you don't want to, like, at a certain point, some players don't want to commit to a regiment, but they still want to participate in the big operations. Like, if 11E does an RFC operation, we tell the guys on V, it's also OPSEC, somewhat OPSEC, sometimes stuff gets leaks, but it kind of feels like it got fixed throughout the past year. If we tell them we do an RFC operations, we have 60 vets logging into that hex. And if you don't have that infrastructure, eventually players that really want to try hard, that really want to sweat, and they don't have this infrastructure, they go to the site that has the infrastructure. And that's a cascading issue.
Well,
that was left unattended for a couple years.
It's still unattended.
And whenever you mention that, and whenever you mention V-Discord on Sigil, again, I don't think that the people on there are representative for the entire faction. But if you think that the entire Discord is full of racists and cheaters, right? If that's your standard, like, some people have the standard reply to whenever you mention V-Discord, it is whatever. Like, you can only... Then people ate their own propaganda a bit too much. But for me, I think vet infrastructure, vet retention rate is one of the cascading issues, especially with Navy accumulating on it. And average regiment size is another issue. Like, you just need a certain regiment size to effectively field frigates and battleships, and it's hard to gather the manpower to do so. And
just one thing to add to Graff. Even though the Warden Navy guys have a lot of vet players playing in their regiments, they still don't have full manpower to fully field those ships. And if the Wardens still don't have Navy perfect, and Collies is trailing behind, the gap just gets wider and wider and wider, and Collies need to be ready to eat shit, lose some destroyers, learn from mistakes, play better. We do need to do that. Now, I will admit that some aspects of the Warden naval gameplay is a lot more appealing, but I don't think that the Collie naval equipment is too far off from being successful. And I know we can get into discussions about adding another ammo rack to the destroyer, or the Warden frigate has some bugs that make it a little bit better in PvP scenarios. But all those problems will eventually get ironed out. However, what will not get ironed out is people going, ew, destroy. I don't want to get on that. Ew, trident. I don't want to get on that because I'm too scared to go out there and then, running into a Naki wolf pack and, you eat three torpedoes straight away. We have to, at some point, the Colonials have to get their feet in the water, or else we just need to commit to not bothering fighting in the east, just build a massive concrete fortress and shell battleships when they cross the border. That's the only two way that we can, quote unquote, fix the east. And I will admit that going out in a large ship and getting torpedoed and then running away really sucks, but it goes both ways. Yep. Honestly, the best mentality that we can have as Colonials going into those engagements is just the same way we play tanks, Bear. We fucking yeet. We know that on paper, a Warden tank line is stronger than a Colonial tank, just like a back and forth, moving forward, taking a shot, retreating. Warden tanks are better suited at that. Their weapons are better for facing forward. We just have to accept that when we cross a border with a destroyer, we have to expect that there's a Naki sitting on the other side, staring us out with that torpedo tube. And you know what we have to do at this point in time to build up the experience is we just have to send it. We have to go and yeet the destroyer. The destroyer sits on top of the Naki and shell it to death. And then as soon as the destroyer dies, another destroyer comes across the border. Because guess what? That's what the Wardens are doing. That is literally what the Warden... I saw it last war. The moment a frigate is done, whether it sinks or whether it retreats because it took too much damage, or it ran out of shells because they didn't know how to whisper me in Logi chat, another frigate was ready to cross the border and continue the fight. And I'm sorry to say this, but maybe as just a wild idea, the Colonial faction as a whole just don't make destroyers one war. We just do tridents. I know destroyers are fun and we can do coastal bombardment, but if our problem is fighting battleships and fighting frigates, maybe we should just make tridents, and we suck at it and we lose a lot of tridents. But instead of the Colonial culture of blaming and saying, skill issue because you lost the trident because you got hit by like two Nakis sitting on the border. Why did you cross the border, bro? Instead of that toxic mentality, we just do what the Wardens do. When you know what happens when a Warden large ship dies? The entire Warden chat says, "Good job, guys. Good try. Go at it again. We'll print you another. Let's get grouping. Let's get another one. Let's get that ship going." Destroyer dies on the Colonial side. It's like, oh my god, why did you guys go there? Oh, the fucking skill issue. Oh, the Reddit post saying, Lamal, I can't believe that WL Legendary rammed a destroyer into a tree and it sank. Why? What's wrong with him? We didn't get that at all. At the end of the war, the WL guys, we managed to trade a couple of rares for a Naki that was not being used anymore, and we were like, fuck it, let's go try the Naki. It's gonna be fun. We went and we attacked Longstone. We destroyed the seaport. A destroyer came. It completely fucked us up. We sank. But the entire region chat was like, "You guys at least protected the calf." So it wasn't a bluefin. It was a longhook. You guys protected the longhook. Good enough. That's good enough. You guys lost your Naki. Thanks so much for trying. And we just but another Naki came to take our place. And until we get that culture sorted out, where we don't blame each other for fucks-ups in naval engagements on Colonials, it's never going to get better. We need to button up, and we need to man up, and we need to play better. It's not a skill issue, and it's not cope. But just from my experience last war, the Wardens are really, really passionate about fighting in their naval vessels, and they don't give a fuck if they sink. They really, really don't give a shit. Telefrig are happy when they sink, honestly, sometimes. Sometimes the world chat is just crazy. They're like, oh, finally, we fucking sank. We've been here for 3 hours selling them to death. Thank God we're done. And then it's like, sweet, Warden Navy just crossed the border. And the battle continues. We need to get that sorted. And I agree with Graf. There's nothing that the devs can do because I don't want the devs to nerf the wardens if the wardens are playing their equipment correctly. I don't. That's not fair. And I'm wholeheartedly against that. So I don't want Naki nerfs, and I don't want Trident overbuffs because then what will happen is the colonial victories will feel hollow. And I know for a fact no one wants that on the colonial. We don't want handouts. We want to have a decent, fair fight. Yes, the devs can fix some bugs here and there. Yes, the devs can tweak some numbers here and there. Maybe make something a little bit more expensive on one side and less expensive on the other side, just to encourage more gameplay. But man, I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes just playing on Collie fucking sucks when you lose something important and people mock you for it. Whereas that is
the same.
Generally,
it's the same with the Ares. Like the Ares mocking is beyond. Like that tank.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's equal to the Predator. It's not. In a PvP situation, the Predator will most likely still win, right?
Yes.
But they also do not give credit where credit is due. Like the range got increased, the fire rate is really good right now, the repair rate still sucks, HP still sucks, speed still sucks. I get that. Like it still is getting outperformed by the Predator. But the cope about the Iris being so horrendously bad, my man, it's still slinging 75. It can still completely annihilate normal tank lines. Like, it's still the biggest stick you have, and whenever you bring that, like, you have people mocking you in region chat. And the Predator got power creeped as well. Like, a lot of people don't see it, but like the HP buffs on the Collie tanks did not do the Predator a favor. Like, it used to one-shot disable Spathers and Falcons. It does not do that anymore. It has major issues thinning out Collie tank lines. And it still completely annihilates tier 2. Right? I think it even out DPS's ballistas or something. I'm not even sure. And manpower-wise, since they got rid of the second gunner, you only now need one gunner that knows what he does, right? And 75mm, you have 2.5 meters radius of full splash damage. If you shoot between two silver hands, for example, you can damage both of them at once. And with the accuracy nerfs to all of the tank guns, having a shell that if it does not hit the target but is right next to it still does full damage, there's an advantage to it. That's all I'm saying.
Look, Graf, I was partially on your side with that, but I'm gonna step in here saying I'd rather have 42 Taluses than a fucking
I also love the Talus. I also think that the Talus. Cool. I'm in love with the Talus. That's the tank I miss the most. That's the tank I miss the most. Especially it's so cheap now. Like it costs. I think cost-wise, it's like next to a Kingspire or something like that on the Warden side. I love that thing. I mean, it's slow. It has its downsides, but it's fun.
Here's an idea. Here's an idea, Bear. What if we? I know where all this discussion is coming from and where you want to go with this. You want more collies to stay vet, and you want us to play harder and play better. The big incentive for us is make the equipment more fun to play with, and I think that's probably one of the strong arguments that you have against things like the Trident and the Ares to a degree.
At the end of the day,
the vehicles just at the end of the day, the vehicles are not fun to play with.
No matter what you want to cut it as, bro, it's population and vet stacking. Gear equals pop. That's not debatable. You have better gear, you get better pop. That's not debatable, and it's never been that. You see it with the pendulum swings through the entire timeline. And Graff, like, I love you, and I hope I didn't disrespect you or make you mad. But, like, arguably, you're saying that all of our shit is adequate, but no one wants to fucking play with it. You yourself didn't enjoy being on the Collies playing with 420s, and I get it. 420s isn't the best to play with. They fucking run their shit into the dirt. But when you have a 33 to 66% win rate and a population indifference of 10+% every single fucking war, bro, it goes beyond infrastructure and skill issue. Trust me, I would probably put me in Bone Guys against any Collie or Warden tank regiment, and I would give them a run for their money. Guarantee it. Now, the point being...
I think you're wrong, but that's okay.
Oh, I 100% would run the fucking money on war. I do it all the fucking time. But better gear or not even better gear, but more fun gear equals population. When you consistently see Kali's shit consistently
maybe for the
gets
uneducated.
nerfs.
If for the uneducated, okay, you really have the feeling that Kali gear got nerfed in the last year, like overall,
Oh, 100%.
and not maybe buffed.
100%.
Okay.
Look at the Katara.
Man, I don't know how much of a discussion. Katara is still an issue. Okay.
Okay, but hold on. But look at the Katara. Look at the Dusk. Look at the Nemesis immediately after it got implemented. Look at all of these. Look at the Spatha. It got buffed to great, and then it had to come down.
Oh, so you don't...
Spatha is good. But what I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of things...
I'm not sure how much of a discussion I want to have. Like, this is...
Well, talk.
Like, right now, you're reaching, in my opinion, the brain rot territory. I'm very sorry, but... Explain it. You mean the 80%, like the 50% DPS increase on the Spatha with a 30% HP increase, and then they nerf 5% high velocity and give it 0.5 seconds more reload, and you tell me the Spatha is shit?
They nerfed.
You didn't say it's shit, but you complain about it getting nerfed. Nemesis, like, what was the disable threshold? It still can't be fucking tracked. Like, and you got the tank, man. You got the tank that everyone was asking for ages, and the fucking Nemesis has insane HP pool. Like, I don't know what are you coping about? Like,
well, so the argument I'm having is...
Sorry.
Hold on. Now, let me say this. The argument I'm having is when the Wardens get a nerf, a.k.a. the Outlaw, it got a pretty big nerf going to Facility. They gave it a 20% high velocity. Which
is standard for the Spatha since ages, yeah.
But again, it didn't outrange, and it didn't have the boost. Like, asymmetric, you have a lot of boosts in a lot of things there. They also buffed...
We have one boost more than you, I think.
You
have the Kroneska, and we have the Outlaw, and that's it. That's 2 Vix.
Outlaw, Brigand, Highwayman.
Outlaw, Brigand, Highwayman, Bone Law.
Oh yeah, we can talk about the Highwayman, which is non-existent right now.
Okay, but let's talk about the Bone Law, the best DPS tank in the game. That can kill a tank or do 5,000 damage in 5.6 seconds. There's not another tank in the game that has that DPS range. There's nothing.
It also pays for it dearly. It gets high HP reduction, has the highest
by 100 health.
Highest turret disable chance. I mean, you should say 100 health. I mean, it still sits like 700 HP lower than a Spatha or a Falcon.
Again, but it can't deal the same damage.
I think. Sorry, one moment. I just want to two things. One, Bear. The Spatha was too strong. I was the dude in 112 who made 1,000 who encouraged the regiment to spam public Spathas, and we fucking crushed it in that middle lane. But I said that because I was like, damn, the Spatha is fucking good. The Spatha was too strong. So a 10% high velocity nerf with no other factors being affected to it, I think is fine. I'm not a big fan of the Outlaw in general because I think the Outlaw is not used for what it was supposed to be designed for. But I'm not going to go into Outlaw discussions because that's where my brain rot sets in. So I'm not going to go down that route. However, Bone Law can probably be fixed by making it more expensive. Making it a tactical decision to eat your Bone Law to kill a BT by making the Bone Law more expensive, I think would be a fair trade.
You also can't kill the BT.
Well, you can disable it,
but yeah.
You can disable it at the very least.
There's a lot of tools that can do that, right? I can now also.
True.
I mean, right now, one faction possesses a tool that can two-shot kill every Warden vehicle except the SHD. If our Stockade could do that, I'm just saying, right? 50% high velocity on a mobile platform is quite lethal on a 94 platform.
Yeah. Also, I did some testings on the Nemesis on Charlie server last war. Yeah, just want to say one thing. Sorry, Charlie players. I sometimes sneak into your server to throw stickies at you to easy targets, quote unquote. I love you guys, but sometimes I sneak in and just throw stickies to like do some recording and do some testing on myself. I think the Nemesis is bugged in 2 ways, and
it's hard to track. It's something weird with the frontal wheel.
It's something weird with the wheels. I
Yeah,
sent a bug report to the devs through the submit a bug report thing
we
on
did
their
some
website.
testing as well last war. There's something bugged
Literally
with
like 3 months
the
ago. There's something weird with the Nemesis. So the fact that the Nemesis doesn't get tracked, I think, is a bug. So hopefully it gets fixed. We don't know, but I definitely put in a bug report like 3 months ago through their website, and I didn't post it on FOD because I thought it was exploitable. So I think that there's something wrong with the Nemesis because I throw stickies at Nemesis, and if you go look at my Warden compilation thing of last war on YouTube, I threw a fuck ton of stickies at Nemesis, and they never got tracked. And I'm pretty good at tracking tanks in two stickies, or I just get rolled get reversed into because I'm a moron. So yeah, bugs, man. Bugs artificially make some weapons stronger than others. And that's why my side gig is to find bugs on live and just literally just go to the dev's website and do a game breaking bug report, and anyone can do that. So that's my shtick at least.
I guess I needed to reform what I'm talking about in all of this.
Okay.
And my point, Graff, we can get into nicks and knacks about every single tank till we're blue in the face and brain rot, but there's real fucking 2-3 problems that need to be addressed. You claim game balance, but there's a massive imbalance in the game, and we both have all three of us agreed on it. Vet stacks and player base. How do you fix those things? And also a third thing is hold on. The third thing is a win rate. So this is the biggest gap.
If you balance a game by win rate, I just put that out before you go. If you balance a game purely by win rate, you discredit the side that is winning. I'm just putting that out there right now. Never balance according to win rate. If you do that, all you are asking for is getting the side that lost to get a buff, which will make people consider to lose on purpose. A very dangerous territory.
I mean, I would argue, though, that if a team has a higher success win rate over a massive year span, you cripple that other side that keeps losing until you have no one else to fight except AI. That's the other argument to be had. And that's kind of what you see now is the Kali rate. You see quitting happen more often. You see lower pop rates happen more often. And if you keep ignoring the side that keeps losing, regardless of if you agree with balance or not, Graff, if the continuous rate of which the game's going at this point keeps going, you will not fight any Kalis anymore. You'll fight AI. It's a 33% win rate. I'm not saying that's the only thing you need to focus on, but if you're looking at this in a pure lens of balance, sure. But if you're looking at player enjoyment rates and other games coming out,
I get that.
You're not.
I get
Kalis
that, right?
are in a shitter.
But I also said vet retention, right? And in regards of vet retention, devs can't fix anything. Vet retention is purely based on the community and the community infrastructure. And if you think right now that a vet on the Collie side has the same infrastructure given to him as on the Warden side, I'm sorry, then you have to talk to way more Collie vets that went Warden.
I would also argue this, though, Graff. Why is one side specifically quoted and have more vet population, and why was that infrastructure made on that side?
Yeah, that's a question you can ask yourself, why the Collie side never manages to get a vet hub running.
I think you're avoiding the question because it's I'm
avoiding you giving. You think the answer is they just had better gear. If that's your answer, you can go for that. I think it's wrong. I think.
Well, then what's your opinion? Well, what's your opinion of why miraculously the vets correlate?
It's not miraculously,
to the
my man. It's a year-long process. It's a process that's happened over years, and it's cascading on top of other things as well. Why, for example, let's be real.
Then why did the Collies have it before?
Whatever color you pick, it's more or less irrelevant. Why, for some reason, is having big regiments, on average, exclusively to one faction side? Why do Wardens have consistently larger regiments? Even though all you do is pick the blue color. Explain it to me. Now go for it. You're always asking for me to give you answers. Explain to me why Wardens have bigger regiments on average, even though all they do is pick the blue color. Explain to me by someone that, even though it just died, something that works, but the intention behind it is something as well, right? Why is one faction willing to completely, at least give it a try, to structuralize the distribution of resource fields? Why is one faction willing to do that and the other one would never? Outside of only the big regiments talk to each other. Again, I don't want to go too big into the works discussion because there's a lot of other issues laying below, and it's also just died this war. But why is all of this exclusive to one faction? I like this as well to a certain degree. I like the idea behind it. I also think that they kind of lost their track eventually after all of these years, but it went through a lot of iterations as well, right?
So there's two really simple.
But
why
I don't want to distract. I don't want to distract. So Bear, please. I'm keen to hear the answer as well. So please, yeah.
So I think there's
let's hear what Big has to say.
I think there's two underlying reasons for this. Is not culture is in culture of players working together, but actual literal time zone culture differences. The Wardens have a really high number of French and European players that play together. And most of the time, you get people that play the same language play together. Henceforth, a lot of NA players, not to say all, but a lot of NA players, typically it's a 50-50 balance, but you see a lot, or even I would say 80% of French players go Warden. There's a big number of French players on Warden. And much like... Hold on. Yeah. You got to let me answer, because if you keep cutting off, I can't answer you. The other half is, and why you're seeing a massive dramatic downfall in the Collies, is we used to have a large population of the Chinese with ACA, when MSA was rolling heavy, when you had CGC rolling heavy. You had the Asian time zone dominate the back time zone that the Europeans weren't on, and the Europeans, it would be a back and forth like that, which you still see it nowadays with NA and European, but then you have the Russians, which used to also really be, I would say a lot of Wardens used to play Warden, and now we're playing Collie. A lot of it is, there's time zone differences, and much of the game is PvE in the off-zone hours. There's like about a 3-hour window between each time zone that continuously dominates for a few hours until the next shift gets picked up. Usually the Australian crews are fighting a lot of the zombie EU people, and that's really the only ones we really have. We used to rely on ACA. The other reason in why you see a lot of the... sorry, I was looking at chat for a second. Another big reason of why you have a massive, bigger regiment coordination on that side is now we're talking about culture difference, and you can get multiple reports. Whether you've experienced this firsthand, I am going off the 5 firsthand reports I've gone off of, where the Wardens are... You fall in line, and the old way was we'll mass report you till you get out of the fucking hex, which I don't know if that ever happened, but I heard this happened. And more or less now it's, we're gonna kick you out of this hex so we can do a big fucking operation here, and everyone wants to be a part of the big operation, versus as the Collies, you have SOM, 141CR, you have coalitions, much more like a PMC faction, where it's you do this section, we'll do this section, we'll do this section, and all of it, instead of being one tag, it's very much PMC coordination groups together working in the lanes. And also, when you just have 300 more fucking players every single war based on population stats, you're generally going to have more numbers in your fucking regiments based on you just have more pop. I mean, that's a bare fucking minimum thing.
That's it? That's the explanation?
I would argue that time zones and more pop in the fucking game, yeah, those two things alone, most people just join regiments because of language. A lot of the time.
Yeah, but that's Yeah, but language, I get the, like, if you have a large French community on one side, obviously it pulls more French people to it. But I would also argue that collies had a monopoly in the past on certain other time
In the
zones. Right?
past.
Like, I think we can all agree on that collies right now still have a dominance in the NA department. And the Asian shift just happened with CGC now going Warden, apparently only for 5 wars. But who knows? If they like it more, they might stay, right? No one knows. But, I mean, do you think that Wardens have an advantage in Asian time zone outside of the CGC switch?
I mean, I would
say
argue
not.
we
I
have
think
no
that-
one in Asian
I mean-
time zone anymore. We don't even have ACA anymore.
You still have a lot of Asian regiments.
We still have ACT, and we still have the Taiwanese groups that play as well.
Yeah.
So
Like, collies usually
I would say
dominated.
I would say it's equal now. Look, CGC is a big regiment. Not gonna lie, but they don't make up. They're not the. If one regiment, well, to be fair, Bear, if one regiment goes over and we lose an entire time zone, that might be a problem on our side. That might be a problem on the colonial side, not to the fault of CGC.
And
who wants to play with the
Warden
others.
sizes on
Yeah.
regiments were bigger years ago already. Like,
Yeah.
it's a trend, and like, unless you have an explanation for it, I don't know. Like, Wardens are definitely outpopping collies on EU time. Collies do the same on NA time. And Asia right now feels slightly, to a certain degree, maybe a bit more than just slightly, favored to the Wardens. But it's a collie regiment that might did the tip. And before that, it did not feel like it's a Warden favorite time zone.
Well, then
At
how do
least
you
I would disagree on that.
explain 10% pop-in difference just in general player base overall? That, I mean, you're talking about a 3,000 player
I mean,
number.
you are blaming. You
So that's
think
300
it
players.
is equipment?
Well, I would argue that
Huh?
it's not just equipment. So don't put that in my mouth, because I never said it's just equipment.
Okay.
Because we're not going to misquote each other here, apparently. So the point I'm trying to get at is I think the gear has a massive influence on where people go. I think if you play in a war where you see these massive tank lines and tanks that just are juicy, and you're a really big tank guy, and you think everyone tells you the Wardens are the tank faction, you're going to go there. And henceforth, what Legendary said at the beginning of the game, what do the collies have that are really fucking popping for us right now?
I do agree. I do agree that colonials right now are struggling with identity because post infantry update we lost a lot of our identity, and I'm fairly sure that devs are trying to do something to bring it back. Just for example, a step in the right direction was the prominence of the Dragonfly. That brought it back a little bit. Dragonfly is a little bit OP, so it's probably gonna see some changes. But I think both shotguns are a little bit OP. So
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
both completely.
they're both
least we
OP.
can
They're
all
both
agree
OP.
on
I mean,
this.
I fucking
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
The what?
We can agree on the fact that both shotguns.
Oh, I
OP.
said all we
Um,
can all agree shotguns are fucking busted.
Yeah.
Yes, they're busted. They're busted. But I just want to chime in saying and I agree with my original statement. I think the colonials are struggling with an identity. We used to be the hardcore, like, if you like fighting in trenches, we're the faction for you. That has fallen away a bit, and that's fair. That's fine. I do understand that, and you might know more than me, Graf, but I do know that a lot of Warden regiments tend to not play until light tanks show up. And that was because of just how oppressive the Bomberstone and Argenti was with Shadow Dancing. But both of those got fixed / nerfed.
Yeah.
And it's now a lot more appealing to play early.
I mean, I still don't like the early game for a lot of other reasons, right? I don't like. I still don't. Yeah, I still don't like the early game for a lot of reasons. But they at least got rid of one of the major reasons I really disliked it, and that was the. But in general, they got rid of a lot of equipment power spikes all over. I would say that the majority of them are now gone, and the majority of what's left is the perceived difference, right? It's like we were used that we always ate shit until tier 5, right? And that's why a lot of Wardens still only log in at tier 5. Wardens were used that they need to get this comeback going because they will always lose territory in the beginning. And they know we just need to fight, You will see, we will take it back eventually, but on default, we would lose territory in the beginning. That's how I was teach this shit back in 196 as well. Right? You're like, but we're losing on all sides, and they were like, it's fine, we will lose approximately 1/3 at the maximum of all of our territory, but with tier 5 power spike, we will take it back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that mental is still there, while the equipment does not reflect it anymore. And
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Coming back to what I said like a couple hours ago, I think at this point, a lot of the issues that currently persist in the game cannot be balanced by the dev, because the equipment is in a lot of cases already on parity. Like, there is differences between the Lunaire and the Cutler, but in all honesty, the essence is both factions now have a very, very valid infantry-based PvE tool. Both factions now have a 250 wheelchair. Both factions have this. Both factions have that. There's equipment differences in performances, but in the majority of cases, both factions have the same tool. And again, it's very easy to just blame it on that. And I'm not saying it's a nice answer. I'm not saying the fix is easy, but maybe having a lack of organization on the Collie side is eventually biting their tail, because it was not necessary before facilities, but since the introduction of facilities, having good organization throughout the entire faction, which comes at a cost, right? Like, it's not enjoyable for certain kind of players. There's a lot of other potential negatives that go with it, right? But maybe eventually it now catches up that there might be an advantage in organizing everything, now that everything costs a lot, and that you now can better organize like regiment, like throughout the borders of the regiment or the coalition. Like, it's all I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think that equipment is the cause for Wardens having larger regiments, and the vet retention we didn't even touch yet. Like, vet retention on the Collie side is abysmal. And I don't think that all the vets go... Just one final sentence and I'm done, sorry. I don't think that all the vets go Warden because the equipment is better on the Warden side. I think it is just more fun to play as a vet on the Warden side, because the infrastructure provided to a vet is just more enjoyable. You can participate in more operations while not committing to a regiment.
Do you think it could be reciprocated if all these Warden regiments came to the Collie side? Do you think it'd be reciprocated?
No. Because Wardens play inherently different to Collies, and whenever Wardens want to play the way that they are used to play on the Collie side, it backfires. We had exactly that experience last war. If we tried to implement the way that we play on the Warden side, we just get shit on. Like, people talk shit to us and all the other stuff.
No,
like,
I'm saying the hypothetical.
One of the most...
If you think all the main Warden regiments came to Collie...
No, there's a lot of guys that are very vocal about like the pop-in difference. Like, it's on Wardens now to switch the side. That's not how it works. Like, a lot of... Right?
Here's a thought experiment. Just to add that. I do have another point to that, but here's a thought experiment graph. What if devs start a new war seemingly unchanged to how it normally starts? So war starts, you get to choose a faction, you're going to pick Warden, I'm going to pick Colonial, we go into our regiments, we sort everything out. Then 1 hour after the war starts, the devs literally just press a button and flips everyone's player models with Wardens and Colonials. And you just play the exact same map layout. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is you now have, when you were playing Warden, you now have Colonial gear, and all the Colonials have Warden gear. Do you think, if the devs just force that upon us, right? Just maybe as an April Fool's joke war or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think the I think this is the question that Bear maybe once answered, is do you think that the players will give a fuck? Do you think people will be like,
obviously
the
people
devs
would be...
The devs screwed us over. I wanted to play in a frigate. I'm gonna not play it. Do you think players will actually let you? Okay, let me put it this way. Do you think the important large regiments give a fuck about the gear that they play with? That, because I think ultimately that's the point.
But I think actually people would perceive it positively, especially if it would be announced. But I know that then they can't do it to a certain degree. I think people would still play the war the same way they did before. Yeah, because it's all about playing with your friends. Like, that's the major issue, right? Like, for me, I can't just switch the sides. Like, I'm playing with the same people now for like over 3 years, nearly. Like, at this point, it's about the connections you made along the way. Like, I'm not switching sides for gear at this point. Like, I would not. Like, it's like with whom you play. It's about the way you play and all of this. Like, I think if like they would just switch, right? I think that collies would play the wardens the collie way, and wardens would play the collies the warden way. It would be they would just play the gear with the way they
Well,
played
what
the
they have.
faction beforehand. And it
I
might
agree.
backfire, right? Because we don't have an
Yes.
HDD. It's not that easy to press W and S, and there might be performance differences, right? But on a grand scale of things, they would just play the same.
I would love to see a diehard colonial regiment playing the brigand. The brigand is like such a fucking collie vehicle. Changed my mind. Oh god, I love the brigand. Brigand is so fire. It's such a fucking. But I guess this is the point that Bear wants to make. I just naturally it came out. I really love the brigand. It's on paper it's a shitter tank. 30 mil doesn't penetrate, doesn't do anything. But my god, is it fucking fun to boost and get behind a tank line and just unload on Spathos. Oh, it's so fun.
You might not do the damage in damage numbers, but it's definitely a chaotic fact, right? Like you disperse the tank line.
Yeah. But personally, my mentality when it comes to faction balancing, I'm gonna be straight up honest. I don't give a fuck about the numbers. I used to be like a diehard, like, oh my god, the wardens have a 20% high velocity modifier on the outlaw now. That sucks. I actually don't care. You know what?
I think there's certain thresholds.
Yeah.
I think there's certain thresholds that you need to be very dangerous of touching. For example, I don't think any equipment in this entire. No one should have a 20% high velocity on 40 mil, because it allows you to one hit. I think AT pillboxes and max devastated territory. Should never been a thing, but collies ran with it for years. Right? Like, I'm not pretending as if this is now why the outlaw is busted or something like this. I'm not eating that shit because it was never the reason why the Spather was busted beforehand. There's an issue. There's certain thresholds. There's certain thresholds, if you reach them, they can majorly fuck up balance, right? For example, the one-shot disable obviously is a super big thing because how random tank lines interact. No one is going to sacrifice this tank just because some random tank got disabled, right? And if you then can, like, the entire line will fall back, and the one disabled tank will like stay behind, and that's how you can like effectively throughout like hours can thin out like an entire tank line, right? That's how it works, right? But outside of these very important thresholds, the rest is just it's just words lost to the nothingness. They don't accumulate to anything. Like, they don't have war-winning impacts. And even those thresholds, they can be annoying. They can be like a balancing thing, right?
Sure. Over tweaking will eventually get fixed. But here's the big thing. Here's the big enjoyment that I got out of Foxhole. And you guys might have different opinions, but here's why I like playing Foxhole. There are certain things that are just extremely fun to play, not necessarily broken. And that's where I derive enjoyment. Like, my favorite tank in Foxhole is the Rancier. On paper, it is dog shit. On paper, you should never be able. No, just on paper. Like, a lot of Colonials don't like playing the Rancier because they feel like the RPG is not an effective weapon against late game armor, which is totally fine. But the Rancier is ridiculously fun to play. I love, go look at my YouTube channel. It's just covered in Rancier montages. I fucking love the Rancier. It is super fun to play. But it is on paper, it is a dog shit weapon. But it's fun to play in. And that's how I think that player retention is held on both sides. A lot of Warden vets like to stay Warden, not because their gear is quote-unquote always better, but a lot of their gear is more fun to play for a certain playstyle that they enjoy.
Highwayman, for example, right? It used to be like a super nice tank.
Super fun.
Hey, time out. Hey, apparently Ducky's saying Dev Stream just got announced.
Wait.
But happening sometime, right? It's not.
No, it's not happening right now. But I'm saying they just announced the time and date's gonna happen. You know, teeth aside, like, Graff, I love talking to you, and I hope you're not fucking mad. It's a very fucking passionate topic with all of us, and I'm gonna disagree with you that gear doesn't have an imbalance on the game, but I will admit and agree with you that it's not the main factor. The main factor is we all play with our friends and have fun. But I also agree to what Legendary is saying and kind of balance in and kind of blend all of our opinions in on this together. Gear and balance has a massive effect on our attitude on the game. when something's overbalanced and you have to play against it time and time again, it's bullshit and you hate it. And that's on anything. I mean, the shotguns right now, everyone fucking hates playing against it, but everyone's using their shotgun. You know what I mean? Those are obviously overtuned weapons. But you would argue But you would argue that they are the most meta weapon right now. That's not to say that the fucking Argenti or the Lowcaster can't drop a motherfucker still, but it's just that's the meta.
Yeah.
And I think the meta in the game right now is
looking
Navy.
At the leg, right?
And especially with the light. And I think the meta right now is Navy, and that's what's winning. And I think the Collies do need to step up. We can agree to disagree, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think Collies not having that action in the game is a really important part. And Graff, I would argue this in this point too. The Collies were winning until the naval invasions happened. Would you agree with that?
It's hard to say because unless you finish the job is not done.
I would agree,
right?
But stats would, like the numbers of victory
infantry
points.
update war, for example. I hate to be this like tracking it out, but I mean, a lot of people also think that Fingers is one of the worst naval hexes. There's people outside that think Reavers is a bad hex and comparing it to the Warden one, right? I would argue having like especially Reavers is like super easy to defend against naval if you QRF, which is a big if, and it's very hard to pull through. I agree on that, right? Like Navy QRF is very exhausting because it's 24/7. They can appear at every given time, but I don't know.
I think it's hard to put it on one thing, and I think that's a big factor that all of us are trying to do. That's not possible.
My conclusion at the end of last war was that there's like a couple contributions, and I hate to pinpoint at people like that, and I will get hate for that from some regiments now because I now call names, but I think the way that 420 does recruiting is currently choking the entire colonial faction of recruits. I don't blame the entire regiment, but I blame a certain behavior, right? Like, they are giving all of their members officer roles, and one of their standing rules is invite everyone that does not yet have a regiment tag. But they do not put in the work to make proper trainings for all of their members. And to my understanding, how regiments should work, especially if they recruit new players, you have a certain responsibility towards those new players to train them. Because that's the work you have to put in. And they don't do that, right? The majority of them is not even on their Discord, right? Like, if you find a random 420 member, super low rank on any front, most likely he doesn't even know that he is in the regiment. He just got a pop-up on the top left and he clicked it. And I think that's irresponsible. And like, as soon as you have a regiment tag, the majority of regiments will not start to pouch you off that regiment. And right now, that kind of behavior, to my understanding, is hurting the colonial faction more than anything else. The fact that they staff out regiments from staff out recruits and beginners from regiments that would actually put in the work to train them and to teach them how the game works. And eventually those players, because they have no good interaction, they don't get trained, they never learn. I think these players will eventually quit and they never saw what Foxhole could be. And I have no idea how to fix that. I know how Wardens would have fixed it, and I know that it's against TOS. But it might work. I don't know. I'm not promoting this right now, but I'm just saying I think something needs to change. And I'm not saying this and that person is bad. I just think that they have a certain obligation towards new players to give them proper training, and they don't do that. And the other thing that the faction needs to look at maybe is vet retention, and you guys just need a veteran sub. Where no brain rot is allowed in, where no yapping is allowed in. Some people told me that the veteran chat on Sigil is something like that. Maybe I don't have the full insight. That's also a big part of issue of my perspective, right? I'm not playing Colonials long enough that I would even get access to those channels. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys have something that is equal to that. Okay. But to all my understanding, you don't. And I think that contributes a lot to the vet retention as well. Like, this is like two of the big issues that I saw. And the other thing is more of the morale thing. Like, as soon as sometimes a hex falls, the faction, from a Warden perspective, that's what it feels like. When in the infantry update war, Fingers fell and Reavers got invaded, it felt like a large portion of the faction just locked off. Like, being able to take setbacks should be part of it, right? Like, I don't remember the last time that Collies had an actual good comeback war. I would argue 100 was a damn good comeback war for the Colonial faction, and it was a well-earned victory. But I can't remember the last time that Collies actually fought to the bitter end on all fronts. And I agree that having less pop is burning out everyone throughout all parts of the game, right? It's not just burning out the front line, it's also burning out the back line and so on. But you need to be able to take moral hits as a faction. And somehow it's not the case right now. That's at least what it feels like from an outside perspective.
Well,
yeah, I agree. There's a lot of regiments when they lose their frontline concrete base, they just log off. I just want to. I can't speak of the faction because it's from because of the PMC sort of structure that Big Bear keeps talking about. It is from regiment to regiment where some people just go, well, throw in the towel and they stop playing. Yeah. It literally comes down to personalities. Some regiments just go and say, well, there's no point for us to keep fighting because we lost our BT production. Time to throw in the towel, demo it or just don't log on to, or like drain the MSUB tunnels and just leave it. Some people just play like that. I just wanna do a quick shout out for my regiment. We never give up. Whenever WL/HVL now. Whenever things look grim, we keep those loading lines going. That's the last thing that we do is we turn our trains into battle trains. That's the last thing we do, and that usually only happens 24. That only happens the last 20 when we really think that the wardens are coming across the border. Then we switch. Then we literally dismantle our train system and switch on steel train wagons, and then we arm that shit up and we fucking fight.
That's what we need. Berg was initially talking about equipment we need. We need armored locomotives.
Yes,
that's something we need. Yeah. And we need more LARP equipment as well. We need bagpipes, we need all of this. Now that we got melee weapons and we got banners, we need bagpipes and we need...
Let me carry a banner! Dude, let me carry a banner into battle as a fucking bayonet.
No bonuses needed. No aura. We don't need bonuses. We just need one guy with a bagpipe. We need like trench missiles. All of this shit would be like fucking lit.
I do think
we just got it in Helldivers. We need it in Foxhole. We just got it in Helldivers.
Exactly.
We need it in Foxhole.
Exactly.
I think what you said is definitely the case. I do think the Collies do need to stick in it more and play through, even though we have to battle through low pop. But I think the thing that devs can do is what me and Legendary keep talking about that we're missing is the identity. I think if we could lean into our identity that we don't really have right now, I think we would lean into it. We always used to, like, one saying that I never see anymore, and it kind of breaks me down, is rock and stone to the bone. And that was just Boma's out, balls out, we're losing, but we're going to we're going to charge your shit over and over. And sometimes it worked. And I just think we need a calling, dude.
Have to do it?
I do. I really do. I do. I really do. And I think it's more because of what everyone knows of the lore of what we are. And I think Wardens, you guys lean into it more than you think, of heavy armor and defensive. You guys lean into that a lot more than you think. I think Wardens lean into that cozy situation a lot more than anything else. I think they lean into their, trench defenses and hiding behind those big fucking tanks and then shelling their way out of it. Collies used to be the aggressor, really hard infantry hitters, storming the trenches. And, I really feel like the devs used to lean into that. And, you say power spikes, getting rid of them is a good thing. I think it's not. I really think for an asymmetric game, power spikes need to be, they're essential. And I'm not saying I want overpowered, overtuned shit, but I think power spikes matter. I think when you get a morale boost from certain gear sets and when things come out, and then when everything's even and everything's tied up, the one with the more pop's going to win. Well, and the one with the more pop's going to win. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's a very big organizational issue from the devs to balance everything, because they can't balance people clicking on Warden or Kali based on loyalism and veteranism. I think if people had their niches that they could play into and pick of, and, I think force multipliers, giving morale and incentive for other people to play, I think that's a big part that's missing, that's kind of gone away. And I do think collies are suffering a little bit, not only due to... I think me and you need to meet somewhere in the middle, Graff. And I think what you're saying I can understand, and I hope you can kind of understand what I'm saying. You can't just sit there and say, just do it. No one wants to fucking do a fucking hard-working game and bust their balls after working 40 hours a fucking week. Like, I feel like the devs need to give a spirit to the collies. And I don't feel like we have a spirit anymore. And I think the power spikes were essential for us because it gave us that incentive to keep going. Because essentially, what you were saying is we pushed you so deep in the beginning, and then you guys would push us back. That gave us hope, that we saw the big numbers and people would come in and ball out, I think somewhere in the middle of what we're talking about is where it needs to be. I really feel like we don't have the spirit we used to. And I feel like a lot of that isn't just gear deranged, but I do feel like it's a spirit deranged. And I feel like we don't have, quote unquote, a mascot. You know what I mean?
I get what you... No, I get that. But don't you think that, to a certain degree, you just need to look at the equipment and find that slot for yourself? I get that right now the faction doesn't feel like Navy is their thing. But, that's how, you can make certain gameplay loops more enjoyable, which I think would be a benefit for everyone, just to make it more fun to play, right? Instead of making something more overpowered or less powered, right? Make it fun to play, even though, obviously equipment performance is a big part of how good something feels. But, I don't know. Wardens... yeah.
I had one question for you, Graff, but please finish your
I'm just not sure how
statement.
much devs can influence that, right? To me, it feels like something that the players have to choose themselves what they would like to do as a faction and specialize on. I also don't think that the majority of the Warden faction specializes on Navy. It's dedicated Navy regiments, and they don't make up even the bulk of the force. I actually think that the majority of the pop difference is sitting in the Navy. And that's the biggest issue, right? I don't think that Wardens massively outpop collies on the land side. I think the massive outpopping is happening on the Navy side. And that's why the Navy hexes are usually getting lost if all the loyalist Warden regiments are playing Warden.
It's hard to say where, but it's 10% overall. I mean, that's the baseline quota number that's been given war in and war out. And that was based off of War 2... 18
119.
or 119, 119, 119, 120, and we're only at 124. So baseline, it's 10%. Now, whether that's 10 more Logi guys here, 10 more facility guys here, 10 more frontliners, wherever you pick it, it's averaging out to be 300 more. Whether that's in any asset of the game. Now, is that a big, number? Well, when you think about 300, no. But when you think about a population's cap, hex being 150, that's 2 and some change of a hex. Give or take. That's 2 hexes maxed out pop. That's a lot. Considering there's 31 hexes, 2 of them are filled up more than 2 collies are filled up. That's a big thing. So, again, I feel like the force multipliers back in the day really accounted for these things. And they kind of agged it on. Now, I also know when collies, and this is the thing that I know the devs are in the worst fucking conundrum ever. When collies are at max pop, the wardens get shit on. When the wardens are at max pop, the collies get shit on. That's inevitable. More pop equals win. Generally. There's only 2 wars in the entire fucking game. One was a really early war, and the other one was War 100. There is only 2 wars ever won where the outpop faction won. That is a fact. So when population is the biggest thing, Graff, what is the thing that can entice more pop? Whether that's new players coming in or vets.
This pop statement, but this pop statement is also partially wrong because it looks at the end game pop, right? Usually early game pop was always in Collie advantage as well.
Well, again, but that plays into that. But that exactly plays into what we were talking about earlier. Is why is that? Well, that's because Wardens don't want to play against the massive Boma Stone, and the early game advantage is the Collie Git, which is the 30 mil Daucus, which these things have been more quarterly balanced. You're starting to see more Wardens come in. There was Warden max pop not 2 days ago. Now you have Collie max pop, and then you get Warden max pop. These things are starting to balance out in early game and late game where, quote-unquote, you wouldn't say that there's a big indifference. A lot of Colonials don't feel like that, but I would say that there's a mass indifference every game at the end of the war where Collies are getting out-popped by Wardens. And why that is, you can speculate. Anyone can speculate. How the devs can fix it, I feel like it's more of an identity crisis than anything. I feel like identity crisis and not believing in our equipment. And I know that everyone that sits there, I say your equipment's better, you say my equipment's better, you say it's balanced, I say it's balanced. Whatever the case may be, the dead bottom line is, at the end of each war, there's more Warden pop. That is generally because we have the stride but if we have the stride in the beginning and then we can capitalize on that, we keep the pop. But when we can't capitalize on it,
no, that's not the bottom line. The bottom line is the winning faction always ends up with more pop.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to say. Don't dip too much into causation there. Correlation is not causation, Big Bear. If a faction is just outright winning, the losing faction stops playing. And there is fuck all that the devs can do to fix that.
Yeah.
I don't want the losing faction to suddenly have plus 50% to their concrete health. I will stop playing the game if that happens.
Oh yeah, I'm not suggesting
I don't
that.
Want the if a faction is losing, let them lose. We can play again. That's fine. But I don't want the devs to go, oh, this faction has 10% more players. It feels bad, but I don't want a global nerf to the winning faction.
I mean, you already get that, right?
So should we take away respawn rates and we should take away pop caps on hexes?
Okay. So those are the only those are the only acceptable ones that I'm okay with. And even then, they fucking suck. they suck. I hate
if you're on the receiving end,
suck.
Yeah.
That sucks. But I think the buck has to stop there. It has to stop there. We can't. I don't want. I jokingly for April Fools made a thing on Reddit because I was feeling a bit in a trollish mood where I said that the devs pushed an update and I went and made a fake dev update screenshot where I literally said the winning if a faction is outpopped, you need to use 2 soldier supplies every time you want to respawn. And people lost their fucking minds. They were like, what? They can't do that. But ultimately, the point of that post was, I actually don't want that. I explicitly made that post just to troll people, just to get people warmed up a little bit because it was April Fool's, and I'm a bit of a prankster, and that's fair. But I would, if the devs actually implemented something like that, uninstall tomorrow. I'll never touch Foxhole again. I don't want a losing side. Sorry. I don't want a winning side to be punished for winning. That is unfucking fair and unfun. And I will just stop playing Foxhole. If the devs are going to implement something like that, I'm gone. And I'm dead serious. Because then it's the winning factions will just keep winning and they will suffer for doing so. You should just let the game finish and restart again. And I think that's a healthier model for the game overall. But I really have a burning question for Graff. And this I don't want to go in circles, but here I've been cooking on a question for you. That may resolve the why do the Wardens have a better veteran player player base, a culture, player culture set up on the Discords, and basically meta Foxhole, if that makes sense. It's outside the game.
Yeah. But
I have a question for you. Do you think, and this is not a Cope question, promise you it's not a Cope question. Do you think that the Wardens have a better veterancy support system and veterancy culture because most game assets that release for Foxhole are usually designed around the Warden aesthetic and the Warden playstyle first?
Oh,
because when the devs develop a new patch or develop a new major update, normally the Warden weapons get designed and developed first. This is very prevalent in Inferno because the devs actively first designed the Predator. They designed the Predator first, and the Ares came second. And then for because I read the dev blog about Naval as well. I was bored one day in office. And when you go read through the dev blog for Naval, the very first consideration that they had was the Naki. But not because it was a Warden submarine. It was because they wanted to get the gameplay loop for the submarine perfect. Because they were introducing a whole bunch of new mechanics with the submarine stealth mechanic, the ship going through a layer below the play surface that we're accustomed to. So the Naki and the Predator are two prime examples where the Warden weapon was designed first. So therefore, the culture around veterans coming in and playing again is purely based on the fact that it is supportive of the developers develop weapons for Wardens first, and Wardens tend to enjoy having the more interesting toys on primary release. What are your thoughts about that? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a case. I see where you're going. I would also argue that SHTs and submarines are maybe a bit too niche for equipment to appeal to the majority of the faction, right? Too hard to get, but I never looked at it. I never looked at it from that side. But then you can blame devs again, right? It's like this. NPC faction. That's where the NPC. Yeah. That's where the NPC faction argument comes from, right?
No. I don't like that argument because if people joke about it being the NPC faction and then the actual colonials start reciprocating it, then some mental tick clicks in and people start believing it and they just get depressed. I don't like that mentality. So when people say we're the NPC faction, I tell them to fuck off. Respectfully and politely. And I mean, maybe it's an amazing psyops, and if the Warden psyops division is watching and they keep doing that and keep calling us the NPC faction and we get depressed, god damn, that is some high level like
dedication.
Gaming over gaming moment. And I respect the hustle, but I
mean I get it, right? I think the Ares and the Predator is like a prime example where you feel like your faction is an afterthought, right? Yes. Like one side gets like all of these different variants and the other side just gets the Ares. But then if you look at it, like there's a counter argument as well that actually based on your one, right? They designed the Warden SHT first, and they went with a Warden aesthetic, and then they thought about, okay, what do we want to do with SHTs? Do we want to give them 150s, 300s and something? And then they eventually decided, no, we want to be a bit more conservative. They will just have this new 94 round. And now we need a colonial counterpart as well. Okay, we don't even have to consider going for 300, or we don't even have to consider putting like artillery on it or like 250, right? And they already knew, okay, it needs to be a bit more conservative in design. Okay, the difference will be it shoots 75 instead of 94, and we already use an existing asset. That's a big mistake in my opinion. That gave it a lot of hate as well. And and then in the description of the lore, there's like the biggest difference, right? The other one, this one is like, yeah, we picked it up to break blemish, and the other one, that's a BTD description, I think. But this one was this and that, and like this and this person designed it there. And I agree that like sometimes the lore and the explanation is more interesting on the Warden side, right? But
So just actually, you bring up a very good point, and this is why I wanted to ask you the question, because you have a lot of really good insights on this, and this is why I want to pick your brain about this. But you actually said something that I never considered now, and I do believe it. I think we all know about that one Larry clip where he says, this one's my favorite. No, this one's my favorite. We all know that
fire.
clip. We all know
the
that
clip
clip,
is
right?
fire,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yes, yeah, we know that clip. But back in the day, dial the time back 2 years.
Mhm.
I drank the Larry Kool-Aid a little bit too much, and I could have totally been like, "Wow, the devs really fucking hate us." Like, he's right. Look at all these crazy designs of super heavies. But now that you said that, it actually makes sense why the Ares was so bland and uninteresting, because they put all their creative energy designing the Predator, and they figured out what didn't work.
Yep.
That's why the Ares doesn't have like a 150 SPG turret on it, or that's why
Yep.
the Ares doesn't have bone law beat RPGs on the back and can just shred tanks, because more likely now the devs put all their effort in designing the Predator first. They probably had a prototype up over a span of like a month or something like that. They probably did some like dev play tests or something. I don't know how they actually test things. I think they probably have a QA department. No idea.
I hope so.
But
But they're very small,
but
right?
they play, but they ultimately they probably played it out. They probably put the Predator with all its different iterations to the test, and they probably established that, okay, we know now what works for a super heavy weapon and what doesn't. So when it came around to, okay, the linear development cycle of game development is they finish one asset and then they start working on another. Very, very rarely do they actually do two things at the same time, unless they're a really large team, but they're not. So they linearly finished designing and finishing off the Predator, and then they started looking at the identity with the Ares.
Mhm.
And because they tested and experimented with the Predator, there was no need to go beyond the boundaries for the Ares. And that is something that you just pointed out to me, and I never considered it. And thank you for answering the question, because now I understand it better. And I'm never going to rely on Larry for opinion about game balance ever again. Thank you. Because it was just cope. It was just Larry coping. But I was Kool-Aided back in the day. He made a good point, and it's an explosive, amazing clip. But I really believed it. I was like, damn, why did the devs hate the fucking Coddies? But I'm just wrong. And I see it better this way, and I guess that's me developing and learning as a better player and a better person.
I also think that they kind of did a turnaround with the BTD, for example, right? Which gave a lot of more flavor to the Collie battle tanks to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Which to me it lacks a bit on the Warden side, right? You have this massive SHT, which is like your nice big shiny tool, but the BTD also in costs is something between a battle tank and the super heavy. And it has a very unique behavior for battle tank chassis. I personally would also like to get something. That's where my Ascension cope comes into play. I would like to see that tank added again, like some battle performance upgrade over the regular BT, right? Because the Juggernaut, in all its honesty, it's a glorified firebrand, right? In the majority of cases, it's used to set concrete on fire that is already breached. It's very nice as a coup de grace weapon against safe houses and town halls, right? But yeah, that's something I would really hope to be added. Is like some upgrade to the BT. Like when we talk, like because that was one of the initial things, right? Like what would we like to be added? I'm not sure how you would balance it. I don't think a 45 meter 75 is the answer. In all honesty, it's not. But I would just like to see something else but the regular battle tank on the Warden side. But at the end of days, if I never get that tool, I will also not. That's not the reason why I would play Foxhole or not play it. It's just something nice to have, right? It's like having a banner. It's like having a bagpipe. It's just nice to have. It would be nice.
I will say though that Flame DBT, even though on paper it doesn't
it's nasty.
outperform
It's nasty.
the MG. It's no. Again, it's fucking fun though. It is fun.
Yeah, it is
fun. It is fun blasting a safe house with 75, and then you just make them eat fire. So much fun. I'm pro fun. I don't give a fuck. They could remove 1,000 health off of that BT. I wouldn't give a fuck. I would still play it. I play for the fun factor. And that's my I guess that's my quote unquote copium pull. I like fun weapons, so I really like the Warden Flame BT. My team got to play with it. I personally didn't get to play with it this war because some fucking colleague gunboat killed it on a crane because Lamau we can't submit flame BTs to storage depot. It was my bad. I designed the facility incorrectly, so that was my fault. But at least my team got to play in the flame BT and that super fun time doing it. So I'm glad they at least got to experience it.
It can be fun, right? It just you have
It's fun.
clear rules of engagement if you want to perform in it well, right? Like it's the same with the BTD though. BTD really needs like a narrow front line, in the best case scenario, a filled up tank line, and that's when it can really excel. It's just very clear rules of engagement, like the HGD as well, right? HGD dives to one singular guy with stickies, but if it's like surrounded by tanks and you can only touch it with other tanks, it really excels, right? It just has a it's just a very clear rule set. How do I have to play this tank to not die? Which makes it easy in one regard and very hard in another, because if you want to play it outside of its comfort zone, it's next to impossible. But if you play within those rules, it excels, right? And then it's very satisfying.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Well,
again, thanks for the answer. It opened my eyes a bit.
Guys, you guys have excelled.
But I think there was some more topics. I mean, we are talking already for quite some time, but I think there was another topic, right? You wanted to talk about Airborne and our wishes for it?
Yeah, I mean,
to a certain degree.
I literally said at the beginning of this, I didn't want to, slurp on the fucking copium Kool-Aid and more about what we wanted, but Foxhole, am I right, boys? I do want to see what you guys are thinking for Airborne, and what that looks like. And this is purely a speculation part of the fucking podcast here, because again, we don't even have, I would argue, a quarter of the information. We have like 10%. We have three planes.
Nothing. And all honesty,
literal nothing. We have one pre-generated trailer.
we have nothing.
Exactly.
Planes
and
confirmed. That's it.
We have in-game renders of a fighter and a bomber.
And a troop transport.
And we have a 3D render of something cargo related. And that's it. And we already see that the bombs that were thrown were coped because it was 150 explosions, and it was all over the place, the trailer, to be honest. Whatever was in-game rendered, there's nothing to be based off anything. Like,
yeah, it's definitely all speculation from here, but I definitely hope they do it better than what they did 1.0 with
they already
fire
said,
rockets.
Though. Yeah.
I hope they do anti-air.
They also...
they need a combat system to fight air. They need both factions to have all their lineups in order.
And that's what they said as well, right? That's what they mentioned in the dev stream, that they don't want to repeat the mistakes they did in the Navy update, where one side gets the DD and one side gets the destroyer. DD and the submarine. They really want to prevent that scenario again.
Whoa. Wait. Did they acknowledge that was a mistake?
Yes.
I think, if I remember
correctly.
Hey,
hold on. No, they beat around the fucking bush. They didn't say. They did not come out fucking clean.
Okay.
They said this exactly. They were like, "Don't worry if you guys don't see your plane on there. There's gonna be, the other planes coming. They didn't fucking admit to shit. This is fucking Markfoot, baby.
Okay,
hell no. But they definitely did say...
came as close.
Yeah, they came
as close to admitting it as you would expect them to, right? Like,
for sure.
They said, don't worry, just because you don't see your bomber, there will be a Warden bomber as well, or something like that they said, if I remember correctly. And I think, regarding this design decision, maybe we will see the slides now where they have all of the ideas how a fighter could look like. And you will see like the Warden equivalent, right? And then you see how could a bomber look like, and you see a couple of charts how the Warden bomber could have developed, and then they say what they decided on, and then they just have and by the way, this is the Warden bomber, and you just have one slide, right? Potentially to go back to this.
Okay,
SHD
fair.
thing. Maybe.
I'll need to rewatch the VODs, because I could have damn well swore they didn't. They said I know they acknowledged that that both factions are getting a fighter and both factions are getting a bomber at some point, but historically, the devs have never released everything on the first iteration of the major update. Like, that's just been the history of Siege Camp.
Yep.
Also, I just want to remind Big Berg, one thing, brother. You can't disrespect the Markfoot you're gonna lose Siege Camp social credit points. You're never gonna get on the quote unquote.
Bro, you obviously don't watch my fucking
what-
podcast, bro. You didn't watch me and Gremblo talk shit on the inner circle that we're never getting in anyway.
You're losing.
Bro,
You're losing
hey,
Siege Camp social credit, brother.
Listen,
you gotta balance it out now again.
Me and Julian are smoking crack rocks in the back, bro. I don't need Mark Foot's approval, all right? I'm never getting in that inner circle. I'm down with fucking, like, there's Larry and then there's me. I haven't disrespected him too bad yet, you know. I'm right here. As regards to what Mark Foot probably thinks of me, especially because I rep this fucking thing, yeah, it's right about there, bro. So, don't worry about that, you know.
The hyper made up inner circle that you keep ranting on about.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, it's an inner circle. It's a cult. Dude. It's like not to fucking compare.
You're full of shit, dude.
No, dude, there is an inner fucking circle cult. With all the top streamers. Oh, yeah, bro.
No.
It's that high secret, bro.
Way.
I watched it, dude. I went to the fucking island, bro. I've been on the island.
Do you think streamers would... Dude, do you think the streamers would not yap about it? You're full of shit. There's no way.
Hey, dude, I'm just telling you.
You really think...
Soy Dog was in there.
Do you really
bro.
think that...
oh, yeah.
I highly doubt whatever you're speaking of exists. Nah, I don't think
He's
so.
one of them, dude. He's a fucking deep state alt, bro. This dude has an alt playing for the Wardens. He just admitted it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wait, Moy Dog? Moy Dog?
Soy Dog,
But
yeah.
do you think, well, if anything, the devs are quote unquote alts in your walls. They're watching you. They're watching you getting overtuned shots on your spatter. So they're sitting there like, oh, Big Bear killed too many outlaws.
Oh yeah.
Reduce the high velocity modifier from plus
10% down.
Thank you, Big Bear.
He likes the Nemesis. Says it's his favorite tank. Instant fucking nerf, dude. Instant, dude. 100%. Yep.
I'm sorry to say, as I think your conspiracy theory about some quote unquote whatever you said.
Don't make me go get my tinfoil hat, dude. I fucking will. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I have no further comments. I have no further comments on that because
He doesn't want to associate.
I don't think so.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't
yeah,
want
but
to.
In regards of air update, I'm a bit. I hope that they don't do the same mistake with Navy. That like to counter air, you have to play air yourself. Because the issue is if your faction, right? Like, it's only so useful, right?
Well, I think it would just be another cascade, you know?
I think so as well. I think there should be a certain way that AI can counter air assets. But there's a lot of things we just don't know a lot, right? Can aircrafts even cross borders? Do we even get an engine upgrade that will get larger hexes or like seeming hexes, right? And if not, like let's assume the baseline. They will just add more content and everything else will stay the same. Will airplanes even be able to cross hexes? We all we saw is apparently you can package fighters. Yep. That's what we saw. And so maybe to even start a fighter, you have to put it in hex and unassemble it and then start, right? Maybe airplanes will not even be able to cross hexes. Maybe whatever, right? It could be. It can go in a lot of directions. All I'm hoping for is that this time both factions get the tools at the beginning. That both factions get a fighter, both factions get some kind of bomber. I think a bomber, by the way, is a mistake. The same way that a submarine was a mistake, because both gameplay loops. It's like submarines were only meant for commerce raiding, right? But there is no large-scale commerce. And I think they would have been better if they would have stayed to like more conservative Navy rock, paper, scissors designs, right? Destroyer, cruisers, and battleships. I also think they did not do themselves a favor with even going with battleships, but I get it, right? You say you go Navy, and then obviously you need to have a battleship on the cover. I get that. Even though I think that the size of battleships right now do not do them justice, as well as 150 caliber does not do them justice. But that's a entire different story. I also think that bombers, like what they could have gone for is like CAS, right? Like close air support, like Thunderbolts or like Stukas or something like that. I think that would have been way better, like something that supports the the front line, but does not endanger the back line or like building in the same scale as already existing tools do, right? I don't think that any faction needs a massive amount of more PvE capabilities, especially ones that promise a lot of alpha strike, which can be done without retaliation if the other faction cannot lock in time, right? That's
Yeah.
having having DPS weapons is one thing. Having weapons that allow for a lot of alpha strike is very dangerous because you might be able to get the damage done and be out before the other faction even starts to lock in. And I fear that's what I'm fearing about bombers. Like, even if their payload might not be super destructive, what happens if one side goes ape and plays 6 of them at once? Does that allow me to level an entire concrete base, right?
Well, and here's the sad part.
Yeah.
Here's another thing too, and what every collie is fucking raving about. We are like hammering down that we don't want to fucking play Navy, and we're praying that this bomber is like gonna be able to carry torpedoes, bombs, like multi-role.
Naval bombers.
And that's what every collie's hoping for, is we get torpedo bombers. Less crews, same as a fucking Trident, same fucking... And that's what every collie's hoping for, and I'm like... at best, we're going to be able to HE bomb it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we will see. I think going for like city, like going for strategic bombers was a mistake. If it even is going to be strategic bombers, right? Like, talking in Hearts of Iron 4 terminology, I think the largest you can go is like tactical bombers, right? But like, if you give any side a tool that can effectively damage backlines with like airplanes, dangerous territory.
Here's my thing, too. Imagine, like, with the new paratroopers and shit, are they going to be able to drop with explosives and then kill the AA networks?
Good question.
Are you going to be able to? Right? Are you going to be able to just? I talked to my guys the other day. I said, imagine, you do 5 days of paratrooper dropping from a logistics like HVL. They keep providing you with explosives and logi runs out to the deep. You take out important AA networks just slowly over time. Even if in the AFK time zones, the real low pop time zones where the fights aren't real heavy, or where the fight's not really happening, you don't even got to kill the big base. You kill one fucking AA network, or however the hell AA is gonna work.
If it exists at all.
That my
big
point
if,
exactly.
Still a big if, right?
So then you have exactly what you said. Monkey see, monkey do. You have 5 regiments pull together and get 20 bombers. One bomber can't really do that much, but when you have, let's say even, 20 fucking bombs, or 20 planes with 5 bombs apiece, and there's a critical strategic point, and there's, exactly.
Yeah.
Whoop, deleted. It's done. You didn't even get to defend. You're fucking GG over.
Exactly.
Fuck you. There's nothing you can do.
And you don't care. And you don't even care if you lose the bomber.
Exactly. And then the bomber's done.
Exactly.
GG.
And as soon as we talk concrete, you have dry time, right? It's wet. And if it's
wet,
even remotely to anything that the front can reach again, right? You will never get it dry again. It's open now to partisan strikes, right?
It's over.
And like paratroopers, for example, right? Like, it's right now one of the main reasons that facilities in the backline are somewhat safe is it's quite hard to get havocs in the backline. Like, that was the major issue back in 96 to 101, where you had like the satchel danger, right? Like, a single partisan could do enormous amounts of damage with a satchel because they did havoc damage back then. If paradroppable airplanes will have significant ranges that will allow them to even cross hexes, right? You can all of a sudden provide somewhat relevant logistics to partisans. Dangerous territory. I know that there's like partisans out there that would hope that they have more power, but I think right now the power of partisans is already quite high as it exists.
Yeah.
It's a very time-consuming gameplay loop, I'm not gonna lie. And it's not rewarded within the game mechanics, how they reward players for doing things, right? You don't get comments, you don't get levels, you get nothing. But yeah, I have to admit I'm very skeptical. I think is a light way of putting it. There's large potential for fuck ups. I hope they don't, but there's potential.
I just want to say one thing to you're scared about Alpha Strike. I agree that Alpha Strike is very, very scary. But I will say at least the devs have historically, at least in the last 2 or 3 major updates, really curbed on crossing a border, killing something, and running away. Right now, the only tactic that's still prevalent with right now is Lunaire and Cutler blobs.
Yeah.
And it's only on like the very, very edge cases of hexes. But it would be absolutely terrifying if a bomber can enter a hex, drop 20 bombs, and then like fuck off to like a stratosphere layer or jump away.
Or whatever, right? Or like border hex out of intel range or something, right?
Here's another thing.
Yeah, that's the issue. Like we just have no idea how it's
Here's the crazy part, though. Imagine this, right? So you know how storm cannons, when you're shooting from hex to hex, if there's a bunker or pieces by a mountain that the artillery can't hit it. What if you just, let's be honest, the mountains in the north are very condensed and a lot of bunkers are built between mountain ranges, right? Let's say you come in from east to west and the fucking AA can't even see you until you're directly over dropping bombs. Are the mountains actually going to be, are mountains? Yeah, well, are mountains?
Even get AA.
Well, I'm just assuming that if we even get AA, correct. But let's just say...
We don't even have it for naval, right? We'd have nothing that counters naval.
So, I mean, that's scary in and of itself.
At least nothing that is passive, right? Nothing that is passive.
Well, long oaks, deployed long oaks at least give some coverage, but against large ships, you're fucked. You have to QRF.
That's what I meant, right? Like, I mean, you still have coastal guns against gunboats and so on. They do their job, right? But, like, for example, bunker structures, they don't engage with large ships, if I remember correctly.
Unless,
I think if you drive too close to AT, they don't shoot.
Well, and I'm guessing the only one that you do get is howitzers, but that's, again, they have to aim for them.
And they got massively nerfed with the naval update as well.
I agree, so...
Because they were scared that howitzers would be too much of a deterrent for naval assets as well, right? They got a massive nerf. I'm also a bit scared what they might do to building, because in the infantry update, I think it was infantry update, when they tried to touch building the last time. I think it was infantry. It might have been the last one, but I think it was the infantry, where they wanted to remove like the requisitions for that garrisons are not allowed to be next to each other, and then like there was a massive community backlash, and then they opened like a Reddit thread as well, where people were able to discuss. I'm super scary if they cook anything in that regard, like prior to the airborne update or something. We will see, because like builders in Foxhole are like one of the... It's a hard gameplay loop right now, right? Like being a good builder
protected
means...
class.
Yeah, it's
I don't think I don't think devs are gonna touch that aspect of the game with the yardstick for a very long time. We might get a revisit of that. I know specifically what you're talking about. It's the thing where you could put garrisons next to each other and then they change howitzer AI. Yeah, that shit. I think it's too late in the development cycle right now for the devs to touch that with a 10-foot pole. We might probably see that as like a major update after air. So
I mean, again, right? Like, for example, what I would like.
However, I do think that they probably will add like an AI flak cannon or something, and if you fly your plane over a concrete base, you get fucking shot. So I think they might add that. Yeah.
It should just be radius based as well, right? I hope they do that. We don't even know if planes will be able to cross borders, right? There's a lot of ifs. We don't know how much fuel they will have, how fast they run out. What kind of fuel is also super important, right?
I mean, for fuck's sake, we don't even know the damage that these things hold either. That's another massive part of this, right? Like, that's arguably the biggest thing of these.
Mortars. The bombers could just be doing mortar damage for all we
exactly.
Right?
All we know is they just drop mortars. Yeah. Who says they have to drop 120s or 150 level payloads? It could just
says that they're not dropping...
It could just be you drop 60 mortars.
But here's the thing. Who's to say they're not dropping 300s? That's the other really fucking scary part to consider. What if these are dropping 300s? Or even worse, a new fucking ammunition type that, I mean, is structure damage.
Napalm bombs.
Dropping 250s.
Only for one faction. Only for one faction, please. To make it.
And the other faction gets the counter play is the other faction gets one of those planes that scoop up water and drop it on bases.
Yeah,
QRF,
I mean,
and you said there's no inner loop, motherfucker. You're a part of them, aren't you, Legendary? You're in that inner fucking loop, ain't you? You're talking like a dev now, too. Oh, yeah, I see you, motherfucker. I see you. Yeah.
It's very
Funny but annoying because we all know this is real and is a very real possibility, too. That's the real fucking scary part.
Yeah, you never... Again, right? Then talking with us about it, which is fine to a certain degree as well. As I said, the community, it's hard to engage with the Foxhole community. I will be honest. I get why they are more secluded and they're not super open to us. I get that. I personally would wish that they would be way more open, but I understand that they are not. And I gave up on that topic more than a year ago as well. But yeah, the building thing, for example, that I talked about, I think they should revisit it as well, because right now there's like to start building, there's a lot of like very unintuitive things like border, what is it called?
Decay zone,
corner cutting, and so on.
Oh, corner cutting, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like stuff like checkerboarding and so on. Like there's a lot of weird mechanics, and to be fair, there's a lot of stuff like this in the entire game, and a lot of it is like the majority of the game. And like understanding mechanics is locked behind the knowledge barrier that is not openly communicated. It should be way more approachable for a new player.
AKA a fucking trailer for not even a trailer, a fucking tutorial basics. But the thing is,
I'm not even sure if you need a tutorial for everything.
How could you even do basics on this game? Because there's so many things that, much like you just said, corner cutting, that's a basic for a mainline builder. But that's advanced for someone that's just learning. You know,
exactly. And I don't think that you need a tutorial for everything, because it would be overwhelming for a new player. I think that just teaching them how to move and how to shoot a gun is actually somewhat sufficient, and the community at large does a good job at teaching. And I don't think that you need to majorly revisit it at a certain time. It's also not really worth the dev time, because it is very limited development time, right? But like having, I mean, it's community done as well now, the Wikipedia page. Maybe it's better by now, I'm not sure. But yeah, a lot of these informations are just not publicly available. And it's gate kept as well. I do that as well myself, right? That I'm not openly talking about certain topics with people that I know are not Warden vets, that are loyal, because I don't want that knowledge to seep through to the other faction, right? But yeah, like gatekeeping is a large part of it, and that you need to like prove yourself to be worthy of one faction to even get access to that knowledge and so on.
It's part of the game. I'm
It's part of the game.
Cut you off there. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit that Colonials know that Wardens don't know. There's a lot of shit that Wardens know that Colonials don't know. And I think that's healthy for the game. Honestly, I think it's healthy for the game.
Maybe it is.
I just draw the line. I just draw the line with glitch abuses. All glitches.
Yeah. Exploits in general, right? Like,
that's exploits and shit. That shit, we don't need that in the game. And that's why I'm a hardball whenever I see any fucking exploit on Reddit or any of that shit. I immediately boot up the game and I test it myself. I get fucking footage and I go to the literal submit a bug report feature on the fucking website and I submit that shit pronto. I'm totally cool with like Wardens know the exact. I know for a fact that there are exact like manuals on the Warden veteran discords that teach you exactly how to operate a frigate perfectly, and it's awesome. I love it. I love that there's internal knowledge about that. I wish the colleagues would do it more and share more, but we don't. I don't know why, but I love that aspect of the game. I love the fact that each faction can develop its own culture on like teaching people how to play and how to play effectively. And I think that devs love that aspect too. I don't think that devs need to handhold us every step of the way. They just need to teach us a WSAD, how to use voice comms, and how to scoop some fucking salvage. I think when the buck stops there,
the rest is done by the community. 100%.
Yeah, there's no community, and I love it.
So,
and I love it.
This is the thing I'm trying to say.
But like I said, I draw the line with exploits. Yeah.
This is where I'm trying to say, and I talked about this a while ago as well. One thing I think would be a necessary thing. You get into the game, you pick Warden or Colonial, you get a Warden or Colonial Sarge, right? For the Colonials, you get the, get here, son, let's get over here, da-da-da, you grab this hammer, you hit this salvage. You take them through the steps of making B-mats, you take them through the steps of making a rifle, unpacking the shit, shooting it, done. You just take them through the logistics line from salvage, BMAT, factory, frontline, kill target, ship that ass to the front. So they at least know the base streamline of the game. And both factions, I think, would benefit immensely just off doing scrap to BMAT, BMAT to factory, factory to frontline, frontline to shooting. You do those, just that basic line of logistics in gameplay in a forced tutorial. Yeah, that's something
you
like
could
that.
You could do it like
super
Helldiver
easy.
does it, right?
Exactly how Helldiver
also-
does it. Exactly.
Like more scripted, more
Yes,
voice
to the
lines,
T. To a
and
T,
more like-
exactly. Exactly how they do it.
and like more of an event, right? And then you go into it. Everything is like somewhat accelerated, right? No one wants you to actually group an entire truck of salvage.
Yeah,
No
right.
one wants you to wait 6 minutes looking at the factory, right?
Right.
It's just super basic and like here's a stockpile and this is how you enter a code. And
Yeah.
this, super
And
fast.
do a
show
super
him something
scripted.
about combat.
Easy.
You don't
Easy.
even need to majorly show them how tanks work. You just tell them, by the way, this is a teamwork. Don't do it alone. Something, right? Just tell them how this and this works, and then send them to the front line, and the community can do the rest. I agree.
Mhm.
You don't have to make a tutorial that tells you how to triangulate artillery shells. You don't need a tutorial that tells you what's the difference between 120, 150, and 300. It doesn't matter. The community will take care of it, and that's what I love about the game as well, right? It's so community-driven. It's the only game that I still know that is like old-school MMO, where the only progression that you have is actually your nickname and what it's worth to the community. Super unique nowadays. And I mean, let's be real, right? Like, to a certain degree, you also have to praise the devs that they managed to get this off, because the highs in this game are higher than in any other game I ever played. Like, it doesn't come close to anything else, like in Rust or anything. Like, for a PvP game, like, winning in this game feels insanely good. On the other hand, getting shafted also can feel worse than in other games, but you can also have your fun losing. That's also like something that this game does somewhat better than other games, like for example League of Legends. Being in a losing team and knowing that you lose early on can be quite depressing. I personally can take joy out of knowing that we will lose a war, because that means that you will finally be able, for example, to test certain defensive structures, actually last standing a fortress and something. There can be enjoyment out of that as well in Foxhole, which is something quite unique, that like losing does not always have to feel bad, but that's a Warden perspective maybe as well, I have to admit.
No, losing can be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Losing
It
can be very fun. One of the best wars I ever played was War 93. That was a war we lost. That was with when Moydog came in. That was Summit 1G. That was literally one of the best wars I ever played and lost. One of the funnest.
I also have very keen memories of like last stand wars, right? Like when we like last standed like at the bridge in Morgan's Crossing and so on, like defending structures to the last. There's just certain enjoyment you can take out of that, which is really good from a gameplay design perspective.
Yeah, I mean, fucking A.
Yeah. No, I
War
agree.
108. This is right before the redesign of Origin, and I remember we built between the crevice on the very south side, and they were invading Ashfields. They completely owned Origin, and our base stood for 3 days. They were chieftain rushing. It was like the sickest experiment I ever got to play with. And, goddamn, yeah. I mean, winning isn't everything, and I attest to that for sure. Being competitive is everything, I think. Being competitive and being in the fight and being immersed. I think those are the three things this game does probably better than any. I mean, goddamn, a falchion, dude. If you have a good enough falchion crew and you dive that motherfucker, you're gonna get annihilated. But if you go swinging with it, dude, and you fuck some shit up with it, it's always so fun. Oh,
Yeah, there's just like I just have to say, like if things go right, and the game just works and everything, right, and the server's not holding you back, and you just have a good fight, the game just feels super good. It's just super frustrating if you lose a game to like some, right, to game bugs and so on. And on the other hand, that then feels super frustrating, right? Like in War 108, when like Wardens got their concrete respawned because the server had like a stroke and the last save was
3
unfortunately
times.
shortly before it died.
That was
Yeah,
3
right.
times,
But we also
bro.
like in Ashfields, in the same war when we pushed in Ashfields with GLA, right? Like the server restarted a couple of times, and every time we tried to get in ammo, we despawned like 4,150 shells that way. Super nice, super smart from us as well.
I was so.
But it
I
is what it
just
is,
wanna
right?
add-
It's super
yeah.
uncommon. Yeah, Legendary, go for it.
I was gonna say losing is super fun. Like Foxhole is one of the few games where losing is actually fun.
Yeah, because League of
the
Legends,
only-
like imagine in
Yeah,
League of Legends,
yeah.
you know from minute 5 that you will lose. Dude, the next 15 minutes can feel so atrocious.
Yeah, that's cancer. I hate it. Yeah.
That's what I really attest to Foxhole. Like losing can be fun, winning can be super fun as well. Both things can be super enjoyable. And what I also like about the dev team, like the way that they said, like for example, a lot of people say they should add monetization so they have more money to throw at problems. I honestly don't think that money would solve anything. I don't think that they have particularly money issues. Because, as we said earlier, right, like the server problems, most likely it's engine limitation, right? And it's not
Well-
like we just have to buy a better server. It will most likely not
Well,
just solve the issue.
I mean, Markford doesn't have like complete golden
Markford.
teeth when he's on stream, so they could use a bit more money. Let's be honest.
I don't see
I've always
Rolex.
held-
That's true. They need more Rolexes to flex. Yeah, that's true.
I will say this much: if the devs just decide to open a Patreon that says give us $5 a month, I will subscribe. I don't want anything back. Just take. It's a live service game. I have like 60 million fucking hours in Foxhole. I paid $20 for the game.
It's the best bang for buck game by 10
And
fucking
the funny
miles
thing is,
I ever owned.
the funny thing is if you guys ever do like the Steam yearly review thing, there's literally a category in the Steam review thing that literally says like what value did you get most out of your Steam library? Foxhole always sits at the top. It's like Foxhole's value for hours played for the cost that you paid for it is like I think last year was like 3,822% value for what you paid for. But I'm totally not like I don't want microtransactions. I don't want any of that monetization in the game. I would just love to give the devs need to make it easy for me to just give them $5 a month. Whatever way they choose to do it.
Dude, if I don't get a fucking ghillie suit, if I don't get a bush camo for dropping 5 that actually hides me, bro, I'm not subbing, bro.
No. No. I don't want any of that shit. No. I don't want an advantage over money. Using money at all. I legitimately just want the ability to pay $5 and let the game continue. That's it. Pay for me. Like actually give me a live service model, completely opt-in. I don't think anyone here or anyone listening needs to subscribe to my style of thinking. But I get so much enjoyment out of Foxhole. I would happily just pay $5 a month and not bat an eyelid. I don't even need a fucking thank you for that $5. Just take it, bro. I get so much fun out of this game.
They could they could just open the possibility, right? Because for example, for me,
just open a Patreon. Yeah.
The way that I quote unquote pay for the game is that I use Discord a lot since I play Foxhole, right? Like Discord.
Sure.
And Discord Premium is kind of default nowadays just because of Foxhole and not because of anything else, right?
But that money goes to Discord.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like I think, and I know a lot of people that do the same, and I think that there would be something open for that. But I also think they could do other things, right? They could, for example, have preset flag alternatives, right? That are faction themed. Like I don't know, like I don't think they should allow custom things because at that point, if you have custom flags, there will be a lot of dicks.
Just keep in mind that 420s will also have that option. Do you really want your 420s banners literally everywhere? Like
No, I'm not talking 420. No. It's about Warden themed, like Warden or Collie themed flags. Like that instead of like having a blue flag on your bunker, it would be whoever built it and whatever he has. It could be default blue. You can have the Warden flag as it is in Death Streams or like something, that is predetermined by the devs.
It could be really cool. What if they did? What if they did Ducky's saying in chat. He said $5 gets you a small letter from in the game for lore, or like if you're willing to spend like $50, get a foxhole themed helmet with your name etched into it, or
merchandise in general.
Well,
Wait,
I mean,
is this like
so
IRL merch?
I mean,
whoa,
look.
Sorry. Just to clarify. Wait, Bear. Let me just clarify what you're saying here. Is it IRL merch, like mailed to your house, or are we talking in-game helmet with your name in?
So I'm talking about I'm talking about they could do a little bit of both. First all, but not microtransaction in game. I know they're really against that, but an IRL merch transaction, because they've already done it with patches.
Yeah.
And I think like even a simple hat like this, people in my regiment are jealous that I made this. Like, people would pay for fucking hats. You know what I mean? People would pay for a hat. People would pay for a hoodie. People would pay for, if they just had merch in general, or like Ducky was saying, if you could get a piece of the lore, people would buy a piece of the lore or a letter, with lore on it. People would pay for that. People would find it iconic and cool. There's a lot of stuff that they could do, not microtransaction in game to get in-game advantage or looks, but just real-life merchandise and shit like that from a part of their game. Like, dude, that was made by a fucking... That flag right there was made by a oddball. He had it made for him and he sent me one. A lot of the Colonial streamers have it. People would pay for that flag. People would pay for this hat. And why is that not something that they're not indulging in? Not because they're money-hungry fuckers. It's because they could make their game better, and we would get something we really want out of it. A lot of people were mad that they didn't get a fucking patch because it was sold out as soon as I fucking clicked on it. Sorry, little rage tactic there. Little rage chant. Little rage chant. I'm just saying, I wanted one of those fucking patches, but okay.
I honestly think they don't have a merch person on their team, if I'll be honest. I don't think they have a merch person who can... I don't think they have a merch person on their team.
Bro, what if they did a fucking cheap...
to have... I mean, they could do it as they do it with a lot of other things, right? They could...
What if you could buy a dog tag
it
with your name tag on it and like Colonial or Warden faction?
Okay. Hold up. Hold the fucking phone. Let's stop these silly ideas. There's only one true merch that I want. Rancier body pillow. Thank you very much.
He's getting disconnected. He's getting disconnected. False. But I'm not even joking. Theo Mara pillow.
The Amaro feet pillow.
hey, I know some people would pay for them Callahan feet pics too. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Callahan might get some bang for the buck. You know what I'm saying? Some people roll like that.
I will say one. Okay, well, hold up. I also want to double back to a Yale question because you skipped it, Bear, and I hate you. What I want out of air. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I just want to double back because I want my silver dollar in here. You know what I'm saying? One cargo plane because I'm a low G player. I want to drop fucking shipping containers in the back line. Oh, sorry, from the back line in the front line. I want cargo plane.
Small containers make a comeback. Small containers make a comeback.
Small containers got replaced by pallets. If you think about it, the pallet effectively does the exact same thing as a small container. Anyway. So, I want a cargo plane to paradrop shipping containers. It would be really funny if I could paradrop a Raptura. Can you imagine if you paradrop a Raptura and like behind a tank line and like a partisan jumps on and starts blasting? That would be really funny.
That sounds wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also, and this is my out of the box. I really sat and thought about this. I want an air super weapon. I think it'd be kind of cool. Kirov airship.
Okay.
Maybe.
Time out.
One of my
regiment
has
Hold on. Hold on.
Let me finish. I'll give you. Hold on. Let me finish. One of my dudes in the regiment literally said he would kill to have a Kirov airship to like on the colonial side. I've been cooking on that idea for like the last 3 hours, and I agree with him. Having a Kirov like super weapon would be fucking insane baller fun. And again, I'm all for fun. So Dave Man, if you're listening, make that shit happen. I want to Kira airship. I want to have fun in it, and it must also drop shipping containers. Thank you very much.
So I'm just saying, a lot of Bones talked about this and put a lot of thought into it. We have Super Arty with the Railstorm cannons, also Storm cannons. Mm-hmm. We have Super Tanks. We have Super Ships with the battleships. We have a lot of super on everything. We have nukes. If I don't get a B-29 that can drop a fucking nuke that can get shot down, I might flip a lid, bro. Because imagine you're in your hex. Let's say you're in Basin Sinich and you hear the fucking nuke sirens going off. And that's because it's entering the hex. You have like 30 seconds to get your QRF up. And then when the plane's in, you don't get to see it. But you know it's there because the sirens would stop. Or they could get louder or whatever. Just an enhanced warning system. And then once that plane is in hex, drop a fucking nuke right where you want to go and then cut on out. Dude, I could see some dramatic gameplay happening where you don't have to have a nuke in place, but where you make the nuke and loading it into the plane, it would do the same thing where it's like you have 2 days to come kill the plane. But then once it's airborne, you don't know where it's at. You don't know where the fly course is. And it has enough to go to the back hex and back. Make it high risk, high reward. But if you got the high risk off and you landed that nuke where you needed it, a.k.a. Ducky's talking about the Great Warden Dam, I don't think they're going to add anything cool like you can break the dam. But I think it'd be cool to be able to drop a nuke in a plane and have it strategically go down and they don't know where the nuke's going to land. I think that's the benefit of doing it with a plane. You take a higher risk that you don't, have a solid spot to defend from once it's up in the air. That's the big key that I would want with the nuke plane bomber is I don't have to dictate or point out where I'm going to strike. You have 2 days to come hit this plane, and it only has such a fuel distance, so you can correlate. You could do let's say it could only go 3 hexes and back. When it's being made, you have to coordinate. All right, you can go in this hex, this hex, this hex. We need to get air support here, here, and here. And then you would have time to prep up your defense, get your AA built up. But that's kind of the ordeal I'm talking about is once it's up, you don't know where it's going to go. But you could guess because there's a nuke. But I'm just saying, bro.
We will see.
That could be sick as fuck.
If how they will implement normal bombers, let's not go with nuclear options yet.
Come on.
That shit's gonna be fucking expensive as fuck. That's gonna be more expensive than a traditional nuke.
I agree, and it should be. It should be.
Yeah.
It should be, and it should cost enriched oil for that fucking thing to fly. But you get a chance to nuke somewhere without them knowing, bro. They can't even take their shit out. You have to pull all the stuff out from those 3 lanes that could, wherever lanes it could hit. You have to pull out all the fucking resources from that. Imagine we're getting pushed back deep and, let's say the last war when they were cracking in on Terminus and we knew Saltbrook was fucking pumping out the ships. All the ships were parked there. Let's say that we had it built up in fucking, Akrithia. And then we sent it out, bomb fucking Saltbrook. It could change the counter. It could be a war changer, dude. It could be crazy. It could be so fun.
It could be cool. It could be cool, but you also have to consider if that plane gets shot down before it reaches its target, and it's really, really expensive, how big will the fucking whiplash be against the people who made it?
Oh, I agree. I agree. It's a high risk, high reward.
Yeah. But what if you cross the border and the pilot flying the plane, fucking DCs because of steam outage,
I
and the
mean,
fucking plane just fucking gets shut
what's
down?
to happen
Like,
if?
I totally understand that. I totally understand that. But realistically, if I'm a Logi guy and you came to me and be like, "Hey, bro, can you build me the fucking big aircraft with the big bomb on it?" and you give it to a frontline guy that sometimes DCs and that shit fucking doesn't work out. That's
Listen, the only
as
pilots
been
can
as
work at
been
NASA, bro.
yeah.
Only pilots that can get in these have to be at NASA's headquarters on their Wi-Fi. Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Okay, fair. Just I would say like super weapons are cool, but it needs to not be it must not be a faction wide like
Effort.
collaboration because
Yeah.
if it fucks up, regardless if it's colonial or warden, and it doesn't work, or someone DCs, or the flame doesn't do the payload that it's like advertised to do, I'm telling you now, you're gonna get mass fucking butthurt.
But what happens if
And it's
it
gonna
works,
like,
dude? It would cause the coolest.
yeah, it'll be cool.
It would be the coolest little like operation fucking, you know what I mean? Like this would be like Oppenheimer, bro. This would be like the play, you know? It could be the changer. It could be
but you don't.
it could be the lore, bro. It could be the lore. You could make your lore, bro. It could be so cool.
You just have to be careful because you don't want that coin. You don't want the overall outcome of a weapon to be a coin flip. Like, if it succeeds, cool, massive morale boost. Everyone is fucking hyped.
Isn't that every nuke ever though?
But no, definitely not. Okay, I'm gonna be real. When WL nuked like 2 targets like 2 wars ago, I was like, some of the targets that we handed because we didn't. Okay, when I say WL, we supplied the nukes. We didn't actually fire them. We supplied the nukes to be fired. Some of the nukes were fucking stupid. It just happened that it didn't work out. And I mean, you remember that one war where the collies fucking nuked the wardens like 7 times, and the wardens still fucking won. That again is it's a coin flip risk that you have to take. Now, I'm telling you right now, if I'm a Logi player and I have to build your super bomber and it gets shot down by a fucking warden plane that wasn't picked up by radar and it didn't get QRF properly, I'm telling you right now, that is like mass regimental burnout that is willing to happen. So it'd be cool, but I'm just fucking scared. I'm scared that like it's a coin flip outcome with really big aircraft like that.
I also don't think that we
specifically the Duke shit.
Have to aim too high with Navy. With Air Force. Let's implement it in a way that it does not. Let's prefer to bake small. Let's start over ambitious.
Hero
but I know that
hero airship.
Yeah, I'm a bit skeptical. I have to say. I have to admit though that the quality of the infantry update and like the recent patches were way better than the ones that followed the Inferno update. I also think that they know they kind of fucked up Navy the way that they did it. They did again, right? They did not explicitly say, "Yeah, we fucked up," but I think they came as close to it as they can within their rights. And I just think it has a lot of potential to be very toxic in regards of gameplay. Could be worse than Navy. It could also be a blessing if they implement it correctly. And what Berg said earlier as well, they need to fix the server for it, because even assuming it does not make anything worse in regards of load, you will have so many players coming back. There will be big streamers that already said they want to play it. You have a lot of veterans that will come back. Like, I think there's a lot of players right now that haven't touched the game in probably 2 years that will come back just because Air Force comes out. And maybe the player numbers drops afterwards, but for 1 or 2 wars, the engagement rate will be completely insane. And you might get the new players to hop on Charlie because they don't know that there's multiple shards. But everyone that knows the game, which is the majority of people that already played the game, they will most likely go to Able. And that server might be cooked if that happens, right?
I think at the very least, I think Summit, Boy Dog, and I think Pyre is probably going to play up Airborne. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
And those already said that they want to look at it, or what? Because if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, Summit's biggest complaint was that it's too easy to ult in the game, right? To get an unfair advantage. That was one of his major complaints, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember that, but there's been he needs to revisit his position because the devs have actively been like they added in way more logs, way more ult prevention
The logs
stuff, and
are
I think
very good.
Yeah.
I agree. Logs are very
Yes.
good. I also think that now that you get a feedback if someone got reported, it's more of a mental thing, right? That if someone
Yeah,
you got
and-
reported got permabanned, it's not really making the process faster or slower, but it's really nice to like give players this feedback, right? That's what I said with
Yes.
communications in general, right? Just knowing that they are actively doing something is super helpful, right?
Yes. And they've
yeah.
added in I've actually seen it this war where you're playing on a not this war, last war, where I was just randomly playing in a hex and then all of a sudden there was like a region announcement that literally says, "Oh, some fucking altered gear got restored back in the seaport." And then I went to go have a look and I was like, "Oh shit, there's a bone roll just sitting right there." And I just grabbed it and I yeeted it in the front. It was awesome. That shit was not in the game like 4 months ago. So yeah, the devs are working on it, but just like engine improvements and server stability, it's something that they cumulatively add up over every single patch, and we don't really talk about it because we're too interested in the big shiny toy that comes out, whether it be new 250, new Carnix, launcher,
maybe we
etc.
will see more on Tuesday, right? I mean, the next update is supposed to be more like on the small scale, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they said
like small content and quality of life, I think was the original announcement.
Yes.
They also
I think
said
that's what, yeah.
It gets tight time-wise because I think they said that the airborne update is supposed to launch in summer, and I know they go after meteorological dates, which means they have time until the 1st of September.
Yeah.
But I can also imagine them shifting it 1 or 2 months in the back, I have to admit. Because if they really want to cramp in like a server update between that, I mean the server update will not be played as an update war. If there's no content and it's just server updates, I think no one, like, they don't even need to make a dev stream about it, right? Yeah, by the way, we improved this by 10%. Yeah, whatever. Push it out. Yeah, we will see.
Should we do a random prediction for Tuesday since it was announced while we were streaming?
Is it like hot takes?
What do you think, Bear? Bear, what do you think? What do you think is coming Tuesday? What do you think?
Shotgun nerf, period.
What?
Yeah, I also think so.
I said shotgun nerf.
Okay, so that's your conservative pick, right? You say they will balance shotguns a bit?
I would imagine shotguns. I imagine they will, and my hot take is they said it's a small content update, right?
Oh.
Small content update and quality of life. Yeah.
Maybe it's just some tweaks on vehicles, like just number tweaks. I guess that's my hot take. Like, I don't think they're going to add any new vehicles just yet. I think they have a big update coming for that. Like, they said that they're going to cut this war in 50 days. I think in 50 days, give or take, we're going to have a big content update where they're going to add Nemesis variants and shit like that. I think this is more of a just... What's up? What?
I was just gonna say that this is the last content update. The next update is gonna be maintenance. They've already said next update is a maintenance. So
so this is gonna be the content update then.
Yeah, this is the last content.
Well, they said minor. They said a minor update. It literally says minor. I'm looking at the slide right now. It literally says minor update.
Minor quality of life update, I think. Yeah.
Minor quality. Yeah. So, if anything, if you want a Nemesis variant, now would probably be.
I think the scale of minor right now is very. When you're talking about air update coming as the big one, minor
update. Last minor update was the Nemesis.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're talking minor, when you're talking about like, I would imagine, you're getting a Nemesis update. You're probably getting some new faction firearms on both sides. I imagine, like with the trend that they've been doing, trying to equal out both factions' arsenal to at least have an equivalent on the other side. I imagine a Warden light machine guns Possible. I imagine that there's going to be some sub changes or naval changes, almost guaranteed. Whether they're precedented or not, people are crying for them, and that's all that's on the fucking Reddit. It's bound to happen. I imagine naval changes, a vehicle Nemesis variant, and some probably guns for both factions, like infantry guns, because the infantry kit hasn't really gotten updated in a minute. So I imagine there may be a small chance we get some new guns for infantry. Maybe new grenades, like a Molotov would be cool, but this is all left field, I'm guessing. But that's my kind of 2 cents, if I were to ask. But, I would really say it's going to be a lot of vehicle balance, if I were to guess, because that's the major bitch right now on Reddit. And I feel like the devs do cave to Reddit more than we would like, but I imagine that's what it's going to be like. But to also end this and kind of, I want to get your guys' last takes on this, but I don't know if anyone's going to watch a 4-hour podcast, and we're at 3:20 right now. So might need to land the fucking plane. I really enjoy talking to you guys, even if we do get passionate. This is why I really love having both of you guys on here, is we can talk, and it doesn't feel like it's been a long convo. But I definitely want to start cutting this because I don't know how many people are going to watch a 4-hour podcast.
I just want to give my conservative and my hot take, and then
I would love to hear, and I want to hear this out.
I'll make sure. I'll make sure it's mandatory watching on HVL. If people want to join HVL, they need to watch this podcast from start to finish.
Those poor recruits.
Okay, but yes, I do want to. Let's do. I agree with you, Graff. Let's do conservative take, hot take, and then let's call it.
Okay, my hot take, Ascension. That's every update. Doesn't matter if it will ever come or not, but I'm just banking on the Ascension to eventually get implemented. And the Ascension battle tank, yeah, and that's the hot take because they will not do that before. But and the conservative take would be either shotgun nerf or maybe an adjustment to the assault rifles, because considering that they are now cost air mats, which I think was a good change. I assume that they are not quite happy with the performances of them or pick rate. So that would be like a more conservative change, I think. I don't expect anything big, honestly. Not that short before Airborne.
Good takes.
And for you?
From my side, conservative shotgun nerf has to happen. There's way too many clips on Robert's fucking YouTube channel of like one shotgun deleting like 6 people in one go. It's the conservative take both shotguns somehow. I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like I don't think it'll be like a damage nerf. It'll probably be like a range nerf.
I think so as well. Yeah, 100%.
Or the ability to not go through 6 people in one shot. So like you hit the first person downs, the guy behind him shoots you back, and then I don't know how they're gonna change it, but that's the conservative.
Well, no other bullet does that, right? So if you shoot someone with an Argenti, it doesn't go through to the next guy, and I don't understand. Shotguns are like a kill fucking box. If you're in said box, you die, and it needs to be actual projectile base, where if you get hit with like 4 pellets, you're dead, and that's an easy way to do it.
Question is if they can do it.
That's the debate. We don't know. Right? Who knows?
But exactly. Lack of insight. But I get that.
Yeah.
I know what you're going.
Hot take.
And then my hot take is I have an anti-hot take. I don't think they're gonna change any big systems. I don't think for a minor update. I don't think we're gonna see a massive shakeup on like facility gameplay or trains or anything like that. So that's my anti-hot take. I don't think any of that shit's gonna get touched. It's too late. It's too late in the development cycle. We're too close to air. So I don't think we're gonna see any of that shit being touched. I would say my ultimate hot take for things that are gonna show up now is we might. I think the MPF is going to change into a vehicle mass production factory, and all the non-vehicle stuff is going to get removed and moved to facilities. We've already seen that. We saw that happen. We saw that happen. We saw that happen with the last update because we
That's
don't
true.
we do, we don't
That's
make
true.
we don't make tank shells. We don't make tank shells in the MPF anymore. We do it in facilities. And
It's
I
even more
think I
efficient.
think the
It's
devs
more cost efficient as well.
it's more cost efficient and it's less time consuming. I don't have to drive my truck 3 hexes to go pick up my order. I just drive to my facility that I have a spawn point next to. It's awesome. So
Yep.
my hot take is literally go to the MPF and the only thing you can build is vehicles. That's it. That's the only thing left because crated vehicles have their own sort of balance in the way it gets deployed to the front. Like taking a train load of crated vehicles to the front is a core part to colonial gameplay and warden gameplay to an extent. Like hot dropping HDDs on a front that's being pushed, very important. Hot dropping 5 crates of falchions to then upgrade to spathers and then push a front, very important. So that gameplay stays the same, but mass producing your gas grenades, mass producing your infantry weapons, mass producing your Malones and your Ghasts and your Armat weapons. I think my hot take is that's going to be facility gameplay. It's going to unlock a tier 2/tier 3 in facilities. And you're no longer going to have to go to a fucking MPF town and sit in your truck and wait for an MPF slot. You could just build the building. It's going to be expensive. It's probably going to cost like 200 steel to build or something silly. But that gameplay loop is being moved out of MPF towns and into facilities. I think that's my hot take. We'll see how it goes.
Wow. Okay. I honestly have to say, after the airborne update, I think that eventually that's where everything is heading, right? They want to get rid of dev-based structures, and they want to make the full sandbox experience. So I think sooner or later we will go to that point. Yeah, 100%.
All right. There it is.
All right.
That was a good talk.
Well, boys, I appreciate you guys coming in, and
good podcast.
It was fucking good, boys. I really enjoyed having you guys in here, and man, I got 3.5 hours of content, dude. They're gonna have a shitload to hear. So again, I really appreciate you guys, and I'm sorry, HVL guys, that has to hear this last few seconds of me yapping, but yeah, thank you guys. Legendary, Graff, thank you obviously for being guests, and everyone else, thank you for viewing. I will catch you guys next week, and yeah, had a really good time. Go Collies.
Yeah, peace out, bro.